What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 405. Woo-hoo! Where are you, Homer? The enemy of my enemy. And yeah, we're back from our little Saturday break. I was planning on doing a show, but let's just say sleep got away from me that week, and I was not doing very well. And so I just said, you know what? It's a holiday anyways. So we'll just go ahead and take a break and all that jazz. So, but we're back. Welcome in. Glad to have you guys here. Again, this is the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is what we do every Tuesday and Saturday. We get together and we watch the crazy things that are happening around the world. So we're better equipped to do our jobs as watchmen, to go out there and warn people of what is coming and to get the gospel to as many people as we can. So, yeah, it's insane out there trying to keep track of everything. Obviously, we try to do our best in regards to the work that the Lord has given us. And so hopefully we're getting out there and we're sharing the gospel and making sure as we can get as many people as we can. So if you're new here, welcome in. Glad to have you here. And yeah, we do things a little differently around here. We try to view things as unbiasedly as possible. We try to piece things together, use logic, critical thinking, compare and contrast, take a look at what's going on out in the world and everything like that to try to do the best that we can. So but glad to have you guys here. Welcome in. I have my fan going, and let me know if you can hear it or not, if it's like a distraction, because I'll turn it off. But it is hot as mama's biscuits down here in Texas right now, and so I got all the fans going. So yeah, let me know if can't hear anything. Oh, okay, the fan. Okay, good. I thought you were talking about my voice again. I was like, what? Okay, can't hear it. Okay, good. Because I probably wasn't going to turn it off anyways. I need that thing on right now. I'd be a puddle if I didn't have that going. So anyways, welcome in. Again, this is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So glad to have you guys here. Plenty to discuss. The enemy of my enemy. We got ton of things. We're going to go on a deep dive tonight. We're backed up on stuff. So, because we took a break. So I'm going to try and get through a bunch of little stuff to make sure that you guys are aware of what's happening. And then we got a deep dive tonight that we'll be going through. So some of the things we'll be talking about though tonight, we got ourselves the bill or the resolution to block the integration of the U.S.-Israel military complex was blocked by Congress. We also got Mafia-style threats coming from the United States for supporters of Cuba. We'll talk about that. We got an update on the whole Jack Smith document situation. The Department of Justice continues to show that they're as inept as we thought that they were. That's what happens when you put in yes men instead of qualified people. We also got the White House was caught subsidizing gas stations in order to promote Trump's gas policy. We'll talk about that. AI was used supposedly, allegedly, in California in order to rig gas prices. So we'll talk about that situation. We also got some updates regarding I think it's Peregrine Technologies. I forgot to look up how to pronounce that. I think it's Peregrine Technologies, which is an AI data collection surveillance thing, and it's starting to make a lot of waves in the United States. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we got major updates regarding the flock systems and how it's being used in order to control us. And again, I called this show the enemy of my enemy, because it's one of those things where if you're viewing it from the perspective of the enemy, which is the immigrants and the Muslims and everything, of my enemy, the American citizens, if you're viewing it from the perspective of the United States government, because both are enemies. So the enemy, the Muslims, and the immigrants of my enemy, which is the American citizens. And so basically what they're doing is by pinning the two against each other, they are slipping in the actual true enemy that nobody's paying attention to. They're actually supporting it in order to take down the immigrants and Muslims, the problem that they created, in order to install this dystopian surveillance system that we're currently seeing right now. So that includes things like Peregrine Technology and Flock and that whole situation. We'll talk about that situation as well. We also got updates regarding ICE, which ICE's internal watchdog, which is supposed to be a watchdog for the ICE agents within the company, have now been tasked with actually investigating social media posts outside that we as American citizens are posting. So they're actually not doing at all what they're supposed to be doing, as well as ICE just bought 2 prisons, detention centers for $1.5 billion. So we'll talk about that situation. There's a lot to cover on that one. We also got the Department of Defense established a new defense policy board. So we'll talk about that, some of the people on there. And then the big thing that we're going to talk about, the deep dive that we're going to go over, is Polymarket prediction markets and how it's connected to DARPA, the CIA, and how it was developed actually back starting in the 80s, mainly into the 90s. And that involves the CIA's office, which has to do with the Information Awareness Office, and how that was supposedly shut down, but it's actually running today, and how that's connected to Palantir, which we know Palantir was a startup funded by the CIA and everything. It's a whole thing. So we're going to go through all that. So strap in for tonight. Plenty of things to discuss. Hang with me. Try to follow along with all of that. And yeah, glad to have you guys here. So welcome in. Thank you guys for joining me. Let's go ahead and get into, if I can find it, housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, so for housekeeping, usual spiel, if you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. And again, that's our main goal. That's why we do this. That's the whole point of this show. And so if you guys can do me a song, like, share, subscribe. Again, we're not about packing numbers. We're not about trying to get the biggest podcast out there or anything like that. If that was the goal, then wouldn't I be talking about, you know, Tucker Carlson and all the other hot button topics that all the big channels talk about? No. We're about finding the truth and making sure that we can get it out to people and share the gospel. Liking and sharing and subscribing does help do that. Also follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If we get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble. And then Telegram will post updates, announcements, and other little things here and there that I can't necessarily put in video format. I throw up on Telegram as well. So feel free to follow along if you have those platforms. If not, no worries. You'll just make me cry. But make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's right, JoJo, by his grace, everybody needs Jesus. Amen. But yeah, feel free to favorite the website. Make sure you guys bookmark that page so you're always up to date on what's going on in the world of Wretched Watchmen. You'll find the latest podcasts and live streams, the announcement page. In case like I don't do a show or something like that, I put it up on there so everybody knows what's going on. The free book to download and other things as well. 1 second. I got the frog in the throat. So yeah, bookmark the website so you're always up to date. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel and what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. This channel is not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. It runs solely off of your guys' generous donations. Again, you are the ones that make this run. I don't sell things. I don't do paywalls, memberships, subscriptions. I don't do any of that type of stuff. I think that it should be free. And it is solely off of your guys' generous hearts, love offerings, and so on and so forth that make this run. So thank you guys for your support and keeping this going, especially in these hot summer months. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for that. Also got a couple other things planned coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Just nothing big. So like I just got a couple of videos and stuff. There's a series that I haven't done in a long time that I'm going to add an episode to that coming up. Very interesting. And then I've got another thing planned, which should be happening here soon. So I'll let you guys know. Faith Seeker, dude is right. Dude, all right. Let's go. All right. So yeah, good stuff. You guys ready to do this? We got a lot of things to talk about, not a lot of time. And especially since it's a Tuesday, but we got to catch up with everything. All right. Let's go ahead and get started on the first thing. The first couple things that we're going to go over, I'm just going to try and shoot through them. We don't necessarily need to spend too much time on them. I've talked about them in the past. If you weren't here for that, you can find that stuff on my channel if you want to know more. But these are things that I want you guys to be aware of. So first things first, we have this. It says Congress blocks Massey-Kana effort to kill U.S.-Israel integration. The lawmakers wanted to stymie an NDAA resolution that would allow the Israeli military unprecedented access into the Pentagon operation. So this is one that we deep dived and we looked at the bill and we took a look at everything that's going on. And it has to do with a resolution within the NDAA, which would essentially combine the U.S. military and the military-industrial complex with the Israeli military and their industrial complex, and all secrets would be basically given to an entirely different country, and it would remove the sovereignty of the United States. And then we have this Massey-Kana thing that they were trying to pass in order to block it. I don't subscribe to the idea that they're actually trying to block this thing. Don't follow the theatrics of it, and so if it's supposed to go through, it will go through. But either way, it was blocked, which means this thing is still going to continue. And that's the information that we need to know. It says Congress has refused to allow a full House vote on a provision that would pave the way for an unprecedented integration of the U.S. and Israeli military-industrial complexes. The move came through the House's rules process for the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, which determines which of the more than 1,000 proposed amendments to the defense policy. Think about that, guys. Every year, there's a singular package like 1,000 amendments to it regarding the defense of this country. You know how many things that they can sneak in? You know how many things that they have snuck in through that NDAA? Because nobody's reading all that thing. Most of it's probably written by AI chatbots now, to be quite honest with you. But it says, unfortunately, no debate on Monday. The Rules Committee chose to reject a bipartisan amendment introduced by Representatives Kana and Massey that would have stripped the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiation from the bill. This provision they wanted to squelch, previously known as Section 224. Yeah, they changed it. It's Section 218 to 19, something like that. They moved the number after it started making a lot of waves out on social media and stuff like that. They changed the number in order to confuse people. It creates an executive agent within the Department of Defense whose sole responsibility is furthering U.S. and Israeli military tech integration across nearly every facet of the defense process, from co-producing weapons to data fusion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described the shift in the U.S.-Israel relationship as my plan. He took credit for this initiation that they're doing on it. So when it comes to this, again, this has everything to do with weapons. This has everything to do with vehicles, private defense companies that produce these things, information sharing, data fusion, which includes AI, quantum computing, and everything in between. All of it would be shared with Israel. And so, again, you are giving up the sovereignty of the United States in order to make it happen. And not only is there this one, but there's another one that's going through the Senate. It's a separate bill, not connected to the NDAA, but it's also connected to the Senate that has to do with the intelligence departments of the United States and Israel combining exactly like the military departments. So it's very interesting how all that's rolling together into one big ball. So, again, it's not stopping. I wasn't expecting it to. There's been a lot of up in the air questions regarding all this because it seems like on the media side that the United States is turning away from Israel, while at the same time they're trying to combine with Israel. But then when we really look at what's going on, and this is something that I talked about when I did the deep dive into that Israel-Lebanon framework. So go back and check that out if you haven't already. Where I talked about how it seems like the memorandum of understanding that was between the United States and Iran, which is essentially dead at this point, if you guys don't know. They pretty much said that it's dead. Both the U.S. and Iran said it's basically dead. It seems like that was actually put out in order to get the framework done for Israel-Lebanon, which allows Israel to accomplish exactly what they were trying to do the whole time, which was grab land in Lebanon and basically own the government and the military of Lebanon, which of course we know has to do with the Greater Israel Project, which we know is actually Israel's land, but how they're going about it is very wrong, and it's a whole thing there. So it looks like that the theatrics of Israel or United States turning their back on Israel was exactly what we thought it was theatrics, and everything is right on track to how they were planning on doing it all along. So interesting. That's why we don't jump to conclusions, man. That's why we make sure that we take everything in and we use the critical thinking up here in the kidneys. Use them kidneys and think these things through. So crazy how that works. All right. Woo. So that's number uno. So I'll let you guys know if there's any more updates regarding this. I'm still keeping an eye on that Senate bill, which hasn't moved yet. I'm waiting to see what's going on with that. The NDAA is obviously still in production, as I like to say. And so I'll let you guys know if anything happens further on that one. All right. Moving on to Cuba. Let's see here. So we got Mafia style tactics happening with the Cuba situation. You guys remember, it's not getting talked about very much, but how the United States wants to take Cuba. It's still happening. So on June 30th, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez announced that the government has formally requested the United Nations to address escalating U.S. economic aggression against Cuba and the catastrophic humanitarian crisis it has created. A vote in the General Assembly to open debate on the U.S. administration's maximum pressure campaign is scheduled to be held on July 7th. So it happened today. Rodriguez told reporters at Havana press conference, if the U.S. coercive measures do not manage to block the initiative, the State Department's apparatus, Rodriguez alleged, is trying to impede the General Assembly from considering an issue of urgent global interest using pressure, lies, and threats directed at member nations. So we're going to get a little bit more of detail of what's being talked about, because you're probably like, what on earth is going on right now? Basically, they're having a discussion at the General Assembly of the UN regarding the humanitarian crisis in Cuba. And what's going on is Cuba is saying it's because of what the United States is doing, the sanctions and the blockade that they're doing that is causing massive humanitarian crisis in Cuba. And what the United States is coming out and saying is we're not going to have this discussion. For anybody who supports the United States, here's the talking points to make sure that we don't have this vote. And for those who do support Cuba, they're getting ready to threaten them with economic sanctions as well in order to punish them for going against the United States policy regarding Cuba. So it's mafia leverage. They're leaning on the countries against Cuba in order to continue to do as much humanitarian economic disaster to Cuba as possible, and then pointing the finger at Cuba saying it's their fault that this is happening, which again, Cuba is, we know, is a socialist nation and there's a lot of problems there. But one of the main reasons why everything is collapsing on that end has to do with the fact that the United States is blocking anything from getting in there, helping the people. Again, the same country that says that they're here to help people are the same ones that are killing and punishing them in torturous ways. Awesome. It says in a revealing July 1st diplomatic action request cable, it is titled Engaging UN Member States on July 7th at UN General Assembly, Open Debate on Cuba. This is a paper, a document, a cable sent from Marco Rubio in the United States. It says Secretary Marco Rubio has directed U.S. embassies abroad to press their host nations to affirm our objection to the UN vote and oppose a General Assembly debate on ongoing U.S. efforts to suffocate the Cuban economy. So without admitting it, he's admitting it and saying, we need everybody's help in order to make sure that we cover this up. And if you don't play ball, then we're going to hurt you. That's the mafia leverage. It says if the debate's, I'm going to break his kneecaps. That's what I'm going to do. It says if the debate goes forward despite U.S. objections, according to Rubio's instructions, the U.S. is encouraging strongly aligned member states to deliver remarks rebuking Cuba for its devotion to thoroughly discrediting economic theory, gross incompetence, massive corruption. Well, Cuba's got all that too, but so does the United States in all of this. Again, there's not really any winners in any of this. There's no heroes. There's no good guys in any of this. It's just people getting hurt in the name of Luciferian agenda. It says for non-aligned states, the U.S. is demanding that they refrain from delivering any remarks at the UN, and for countries that have traditionally supported Cuba, there is a clear warning. The United States will be listening very closely to the remarks at the debate and discouraging the use of points that might create friction in our bilateral relationships. So that is a threat, if you've ever seen one before. So Got a Band-Aid on my finger. Everybody's talking in a 40s gangster. So yeah, what we got going on with this is this action with Cuba is still taking place. Cuba is without power again. Their power shut down. Keep in mind, Turkey is bringing generator ships down in there, trying to keep the power on and whatnot. And then, of course, we know that the United States is blockading any oil from getting in there, as well as applying sanctions. So their economy is falling apart. People are hurting. There's no food, no power. People are just dying. And the United States is claiming that they're doing it to save the people. Because everybody knows that's how you save people, is by doing that. So, and then they're threatening other countries to make sure that you don't go and say bad things about us at the UN meeting in regards to all this. So, anyways. Yeah. So, again, it's one of those things. There's a lot of stuff happening that's drawing our attention. Obviously, we have the Iran situation that's still currently going on. The other thing, I don't know if anybody's paying attention, but of course you have the whole Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk court thing that's taking up a lot of media attention right now. And it's always one of those things important to remember. If the media is covering something extensively, there's usually something else going on behind the scenes that they don't want us to pay attention to. So it's very important that we still keep our eyes on places like Cuba, in case something else does happen. So, all right. Like I said, first couple things, we're just going to kind of shoot through them. We've got a ton of other stuff that we gotta dive through. So but I think they're important, and we got to make sure everybody's aware of it. Next up, you guys know I've been following this Jack Smith report stuff, and we got another a show of Department of Justice incompetency, which they've shown in the past. And it's very interesting what just happened. So, Department of Justice tells Judge Cannon, which we know is a, let's just say she's taking her orders from the Trump administration. She's as corrupt as they come. Department of Justice tells Judge Cannon it accidentally disclosed secret Jack Smith documents. You can't make this up. It says, for years, the second volume of his full report on the investigations of Donald Trump has been hidden from public view. One Department of Justice prosecutor is on trial for emailing the volume to her own private email. Now the same Department of Justice that is trying a case against the woman for emailing it to herself has emailed it to her lawyers. So what's going on with this? I've done much more deep dives on it, but for those who want to know what's going on. Basically, Judge Cannon was told by the Trump administration to completely seal Volume 2 of Jack Smith's report, make sure it never sees the light of day. What that report is about has to do with, we know, it's factual. You cannot deny it at this point. There's actual evidence, mountains of it, that tells us that Trump did indeed steal illegally private, confidential, top secret documents after his first presidency and took them to Mar-a-Lago. Not only that, he made copies of things. People who were not able to see those documents, they were able to see it, make copies, put them on thumb drives and extra laptops and everything like that. That's all been 100% verified. So he actually did it. That's a form of espionage. He should actually be thrown in prison for that as a traitor to the United States, if you actually want to do the actual law regarding it. But of course, we know Trump is a puppet for the Luciferian regime, so he's not going to get in trouble for it. What this report does is it doesn't tell us what those documents were, or that he took documents. The Volume 2 report tells us who the documents were going to be given to, or were already given to them. You're talking other countries, you're talking investors, billionaires, and everything like that. That's what's in that report. And Judge Cannon was told, you need to make sure nobody sees these things. It never needs to see the light of day. And she did exactly what she was told to do. And then on top of that, a lady who was one of the lawyers, she was going to bust the whole thing. She copied the documents and emailed it to herself. and they caught it. And so that's what's going on, is the Department of Justice is going after this lady for copying volume 2 and emailing it to herself. While this is all going on, in order to proceed with discovery for the litigation happening, is the Department of Justice, who is going after prosecuting this lady for taking volume 2, actually sent volume 2 to her lawyers. And now they're saying, oops, we messed up. We did exactly what we're prosecuting this lady for doing, and sent it to her lawyers. Crazy, right? In a joint court filing announcing the data breach, the Department of Justice explained on June 3rd, 2026, the government fulfilled its Rule 16 discovery obligations by furnishing electronic evidence and materials in its possession related to this criminal prosecution on flash drives to Defense Counsel. On June 9th, 2026, Defense Counsel promptly notified the government that upon reviewing the electronic discovery that same day, Defense Counsel identified 3 documents embedded within the materials that contacted the government to determine if those documents were intended to be produced in discovery. They then reviewed the material and found the secret Jack Smith report. Upon review, the government confirmed that the documents in question were copies of the Volume 2 report that were embedded within electronic messages required to be produced in discovery. It's the incompetence of this is insane. Everything you guys want to talk about corruption, you guys want to talk about lawlessness, you want to talk about all this. This is the perfect example of it. This is the perfect example of all this. Now, keep in mind, the right railed Hunter Biden for his laptop that had to do with a whole bunch of different stuff, the Ukraine stuff and different financial records and all that type of stuff. Railed it. Dead silent on this one, which is actually treason. What Trump did was treason. But they're absolutely dead silent on it because this is the left-right paradigm that Satan has installed all around the world for the sheep in order to follow. So as long as it's not their guy, if it's the other side's guy, then they'll go against it. But if it's their guy, they're going to stay quiet on it because they have a team that they play for. And this is how the government operates. This is how local politics operates. This is how the church is now operating, because I've come to the conclusion that today's modern church is nothing but a paid propagandist for the mystery religion and politics at this point. And so that's exactly how they're operating it. But it's so fascinating that how all the freedom fighting, rootin' tootin' American Revolution, stand for freedom, get rid of communism type of people continue to ignore the fact that the very president that they're saying is fixing all of that actually committed treason, because if they want to do a little history on it, they'll realize that Trump is a Russian asset who was conditioned and trained and put into play back in the 80s. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to admit that. That's all leftist lies. And again, that's how it works. Goes on to say, we all know that Trump retained classified documents after leaving office and tried to obstruct efforts to have them returned. Verifiably true. And it says the issue has always been why, and Smith's report would cast revealing light on the truth. Trump clearly violated the law, whether he was or will in the future be prosecuted. He won't. The public deserves to know why this chapter in Trump's serial violation of the federal law isn't brought into the shadows, and what and why powerful people want to keep it hidden. What's in Volume 2 and an inquiring public needs to know. Also worth noting, a lot of people don't realize this, is Jack Smith's counsel that went and did all this investigation already years ago, went into it and everything like that, cost millions of dollars of taxpayer money. You paid for that investigation. And now this government wants to keep you from knowing what was found. Interesting how that works. You already paid for the investigation. And again, if you want to start getting into the Espionage Act, we have a right to know not only what we paid for, but also if there is treason being happening. It's something that the American public is actually supposed to know. So again, this is another law that they're breaking in order to cover this up and make sure that you never find out what's going on. Could you imagine where those documents were going? Probably to people and countries that most people wouldn't even think of. But that's just the world we live in when it comes to lawless corruption. Again, this is a form of corruption that, for some reason, many people who teach Bible prophecy don't want to touch on. They'll talk about Antifa all day long. They'll talk about the libs all day long. They'll talk about BLM all day long, which of course is sinful, satanic corruption and lawlessness. No objections here. But when it comes to things like this, what the Trump administration's doing, or, things like the January 6th riots or anything like that, no, that's all good stuff. That's not lawlessness and corruption. It's always the other side that the lawlessness and corruption has come from. Jack Roth, this is a painful reality. Well, it's, I don't know, it's not painful for me anymore, because I'm just so callous to this now. So it's more about just finding out the reality. So it's more of just a reality for me. Hopefully you'll be able to get through the painful part. Takes time. But yeah, hopefully you'll get through that. All right. Let me grab some water real quick, and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right. One of so many things that are happening now that's evil. Yeah, it is. All right. Let's talk about some gas real quick. This is funny. So, Patrick, see me after class, dude. Where's your note? Why are you late? No, I'm just kidding. You owe me 50 push-ups, man. Yeah, this is hilarious. So the same weekend that Trump went up on stage for the whole 250th celebration and said that the number one enemy of the United States is communism. The same weekend that he says that, his administration commits communism by subsidizing gas stations. The Freedom Fuel Network. Patrick Star, yeah, that's right, man. Yeah, the Freedom Fuel Network. So this is something that I've talked about a lot. And for those who have been around my channel, you guys know this. They're still using the Cold War playbook when it comes to the whole communism trope. And we've talked about how communism is not even a factor anymore. That's not even a problem, even though they're still pushing it. And you'll notice it's the Trump administration's pushing it. The people who kind of go in between the mainstream news and the Christian news, people like Alex Newman and that whole camp of groups talk about communism all the time, saying that that's the problem. Brandon Holthouse and people like that, they still push the concept of communism, not realizing that what they're building is 10 times worse than communism. You would beg for communism based on what they're actually building in front of our very eyes right now. And so they're still pushing that Cold War playbook of communism. Communism isn't even in the picture anymore. I mean, that's 15 chapters back. We're way beyond that, but they're still pushing it. And so Trump is revitalizing that by specifically mentioning how communism is the number one enemy of the United States during the Freedom 2050 or the Freedom 250 thing. Meanwhile, the White House is pushing a communist Freedom Fuel Network at the same time. It's interesting how that works. White House busted subsidizing gas station chains discount. Says President Donald Trump's Freedom Fuel Network gas discount announcement appears to involve a newly registered entity created shortly before the promotion, rather than an established gas station chain with a long public history. According to Gas Buddy analyst Patrick DeHaan, Gas Buddy is really good for figuring out what's going on with the gas here in the United States. I've mentioned them before. According to Gas Buddy analyst Patrick DeHaan, the Freedom Fuel Network was registered on June 23rd, 2026 to Corporation Trust Company, a registered agent that was previously used by the Trump-related entities. The White House, one second. The White House has promoted the Freedom Fuel discounts as evidence that Trump is lowering gas prices, releasing videos showing a Philadelphia area station selling fuel for $3.47 per gallon. That's just still incredibly high. And calling the promotion a result of the president leading the charge. Gas Buddy's DeHaan said that the participating stations are likely being subsidized, with retailers potentially losing money on each gallon sold. For those who don't know, that's communism. It's forcing private individual businesses to go along with a government-installed financial system, even if it costs the business money. They lose money for doing it. It's communism 101. And that the discount may be covered by an outside entity. The station seen below with T-Mobile branding is from a separate, unrelated promotion. That's right, T-Mobile is now purchasing gas stations, if you guys don't know. It says Freedom Fuel gas station linked to Trump, says analyst. Trump campaigned on $2 gas, now brags about $3.47 gas marketing stunt. Oh, it's great, isn't it? So this Patrick DeHaan, he made a post. I did this to make it easy. This is his first post. He said the Freedom Fuel Network, the 25 stations that lowered prices the president has referred to, was registered June 23rd, 2026 to Corporation Trust Company, which Trump has used himself before. It was registered 3 weeks after T-Mobile took over some Shell stations offering $1.99 gas. And then he responded to his own thing to make sure to add on to it. He said the stations lowering prices via the Freedom Fuel Network in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, etc., are simply being subsidized. The stations are losing money, which is being paid for by someone or some entity. The stations are likely losing 20 to 50 cents a gallon. And this is from the White House. It says Freedom Fuel has arrived. The first Freedom Fuel Network gas station has landed in Philadelphia, lowering the price at the pump to $3.47 for our 47th president. Trump is leading the charge to lower gas prices this summer, putting more money in your pocket. This is exactly what grocery stores and stuff do, like Walmart and, just markets in general. If you go, what they do is, like, if they're selling something for $2.99, they'll raise the price to $3.99, and then they'll slash it to $3.49 and say it's on sale. Ultimately, you're still paying 50 cents more for the item, but they conditioned you to believe that you're getting something on sale. This is exactly what is happening with this Freedom Fuel Network. Not only is it being subsidized through a communist-style leveraging by the U.S. government, but on top of that, he's the one through the Iran war that increased the gas prices. Now it's slightly lowered, still higher than what it was before. Now he's taking credit for fixing a gas problem, but it's this gas problem that he started. It's one of those things where they have trained us, man. Anybody who knows me knows that I have the memory of a goldfish. I say it all the time. But they have trained society with this information age, which is one of the worst aspects of it, is because you're getting flooded with thousands of bits of information per hour. Thousands per hour. The people have such short-term memories that they can't piece together a history that only goes back a couple weeks. But that's exactly what they're doing. And people are falling for it. Well, some are falling for it and defending it and whatnot. Keep in mind, there's still pastors out there saying, there's some things that I disagree with Trump on, but for the most part, I agree with many of the decisions. But he makes some mistakes, like you and I make some mistakes. Yeah, these pastors gaslight their congregations to continue to support Trump. I stole that little diddly from Kurt Reed, because he gaslit his church like crazy. with all that. You and I make mistakes just like he makes mistakes, you know. Yeah, sure. That's definitely in the same thing. So again, it's one of those things where Trump is pushing the communism idea, the communism threat. Meanwhile, he's installing certain levels of communism. He's out there threatening grocery stores now too, with meat prices. He's saying he's going to try and force grocery stores to reduce the price of meat to follow along with Walmart, which would again be another form of communist subsidization. He's going to do that as well. And then all the people who have been pushing the Cold War playbook propaganda through all this stuff, talking about communism and stuff like that, they're going to jump right on board because this is what they've been talking about, even though the threat is not communism. They're covering it up. Again, even back in the Cold War days, if anybody's done their actual history, not the official stuff, go and actually take a look at the accounts written by those who were involved with a lot of the geopolitical stuff in the Cold War. Even back in the 50s, remember when they were pushing the communism stuff, they created all these different boards, surveillance of people, everything like that, in order to make sure that there's no communists getting into the United States, and they're taking care of all that stuff. They've even admitted communism was never a threat. That was a way in order to install more surveillance and to remove freedoms from American citizens under the threat of communism, even though communism wasn't actually a threat. Again, they use fear, the tactics of fear. We talked about this when it came to the missile race, the war, you know, where it's like, well, Russia's got all these rockets, and we've got to make sure that it was admitted that was a false form of fear as well, in order to dump as much money into the military industrial complex as possible under the threat of the Russian or Soviet group. And it was never a problem. We were always ahead of the Soviets, but they used it to increase funding. This is how they operate. 2020, talk about fear. The Koof situation, which was nothing more than a rebranded version of the flu. Go take a look at the statistics of the flu situation. Go look at the past years prior when it came to flu infections, flu cases. And then you look at 2020 and you'll realize that the flu cases dropped almost to nothing, and the Koof cases matched years past when it came to flu cases. But they used fear in order to install other things. And this is just how they work. This is how they do it. Similar to what we're going to get to in just a second. I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but similar to what we're getting, the immigrant problem and the Muslim problem here that's in the United States. They're using that, the threat of it, a problem that they created, as all the other ones, they're using that in order to install the dystopian surveillance system all around us. The enemy of my enemy. They're using fear. And so everybody is the immigrants, the Muslims. I mean, go take a look at, again, most of the pastors and churches that talk about this stuff. They're still talking about that. And they're ignoring the fact of what's actually coming behind it. That's the real threat. This is how they operate. It's so simple. People want to talk about like this is some huge plan. It's like a 1,000-page book on how they're doing it. It's literally a sentence. Create one problem, cause them to fear, install solution. That's it. And that goes back to the Freemasons of order out of chaos, which is a form of Hegelian dialectic, which Hegel never actually created, but he gets the credit for it. But the Hegelian dialectic. So simple. So simple. No offense, Thavik State, but if you say it's worse than you claim that it's worse than I think, you don't know what I know and know what I think. So don't assume you have an idea of what I know. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine, when people just assume what I do and don't know. It's like, be very careful. Show some respect towards that. So you don't know what I know regarding all of that stuff. Just because I don't talk about it doesn't mean I don't know about it. So just something. Zach Pez, yeah, so true. More pastors could be Freemason than I think. I think there's a lot of them there. And even if the pastor themselves isn't Freemason, they sure work in the circle of Freemasons. So, all right. Yeah. So we have this as well, and this is going to lead us into the whole dystopian state talk. AI used to rig prices at 1,700 California gas stations, lawsuit says. Drivers claim Walmart, BP, Marathon, and others used algorithms to raise fuel prices illegally. This is very interesting because this is one of those things, while we can't necessarily pull up the facts to prove that this is happening, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement that AI has something to do when it comes to market manipulation on some of these products, especially as they connect gas station pumps to AI systems. Now they're installing grocery store shelf pricing units to AI algorithms, and they're starting to install this stuff. Pretty sure that this is happening more common, even if we can't quite prove it. It's something that we can just kind of sit there and go, yeah, this is probably happening. It says California is famous for plenty of things, but few great quite like its fuel prices, which already rank among the steepest in the nation. Now a group of residents claim that the state's major station operators have been leaning on shared pricing software to coordinate what they charge at the pump, potentially skimming millions from drivers 1 penny at a time. If you guys want to know how much pennies add up to, then Office Space will tell you that one. If anybody has seen Office Space, you get the joke. I know that Titus Two Life, if she's in here, I know that's one of hers. If the claims hold up in court, the case would become one of the most significant legal tests yet of AI's growing role in setting prices. Filed in federal court in Sacramento on June 22nd, the complaint, first brought to light by Bloomberg, names Walmart, Marathon Petroleum, BP, 7-Eleven, and fuel pricing software provider Calibrate Fuel Systems. According to the plaintiffs, more than 1,700 California gas stations relied on Calibrate's AI-driven pricing platform to automatically adjust fuel prices using confidential market data shared among participating retailers. So how this system works, how this Calibrate AI pricing system works, just bare minimum how it works, is the AI scans the market, scans FutureMAP, scans the news regarding anything oil or fuel or anything in that, collects the data, calculates a projected price, and then sends it to a little system at the gas station that either adjusts the price up or down, and it pops up with a little button that says change or ignore. And if you press the change, it'll change the entire system of the gas station. The gas price on the sign, the gas at the pump in the system, and all with a simple button press, all calculated by AI. And that's what all these gas stations are installing and starting to operate on, is this. It says the lawsuit claims that the system helped operators raise gasoline prices by as much as 22 cents per gallon and diesel prices by up to 33 cents per gallon. At the center of the case is California's recently enacted AB 325, a law passed in 2025 that prohibits the use of shared pricing algorithms that could facilitate anti-competitive behavior. The lawsuit is believed to be among the first major legal challenges brought under the new legislation and seeks damages on behalf of the drivers who allegedly overpaid at the pump. So what this law is, the AB 325, has to do with, they basically are saying it's illegal for these companies to share a single AI algorithm that will change all the prices at the same time based upon the same numbers. And so what that has to do with is making sure that everything is not tied to a singular AI algorithm controlling all prices for the gas stations in the state of California. Obviously, that's not going to hold for very long. If it'll hold at all, we're about to see if it will. But yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, you guys can see it right here. Apply prices. It pops up with the new numbers, and you can take care of it from there. For its part, Calibrate says on its website that each retailer's AI instance is entirely separate with no shared data or models and no interactions between competitors. None of that means anything if the AI algorithm that's working in all those stations is acquiring the same information out there. Doesn't matter because it's all going to come to the same conclusion on pricing anyways. So there's definitely a flaw, even though that they're saying that, oh, they're not connected. They're just using the same model and collecting the same information, but they're not connected. So it's just happenstance that they happen to all come to the same pricing conclusion on that anyways. It's going to start getting worse, guys, especially since we know that there's the AI shelving units that they're doing, going to start rolling out with like Walmart and whatnot. I think Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, they're going to start doing it as well. And we know that stuff's going to start taking effect when it comes to food prices. They're going to do the same thing with fuel. They're obviously still getting stuff set up for what they want to do with this whole computerized new world that they're attempting to do. Yeah, Maria. AI is a good thing, right? Everybody, yeah. There's no gun to my head or anything saying that I have to say that AI is good. Yeah, no. Yeah. AI is good if you properly use it. So if you're just using it for AI thumbnails or artwork or using it for search engines or asking chatbot questions for quote unquote research, that's the good stuff. But all the other stuff, it's bad. It's bad. That's what the pastors say, the same prophecy teachers who have been talking about how demonic AI is for 4 or 5 years that all of a sudden have embraced it for certain things, claiming, oh, as long as you use it for this, it's good, but it's the other stuff that's bad. Yeah. Trying to justify it, yeah, good stuff. Zach, just nod and say, yes. It's like, for the greater good. The greater good. Everybody says it all at the same time. The greater good. Yeah. All right. And so this gets us into the main meat for tonight. I tried to get through that other stuff as quickly as possible, but there's just a lot of stuff, especially trying to play catch up. But now we get into the meat of what's going on with this technology, and how it's being used, and it's all applied under the same office. The same office that was supposedly shut down several decades ago, but is still very much alive. If anybody remembers the Information Awareness Office, then you'll probably know where I'm going with this. For those who don't know, hang on, strap yourself in, keep your arms and legs inside the cart at all times, and let's go ahead and get going with this. First things first, oh boy. Oh, jeez. Anyways, first things first. The AI company powering public safety operations for the 2026 World Cup just raised $250 million. And it's not Palantir, but it's something that works in conjunction with Palantir. Are we surprised by that? You shouldn't be. So, Nick Noon and Ben Rudolph are the creators of Peregrine Technologies. That might not be how you pronounce it. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. So, and it says years later, after they got together during their schooling stuff, after a stint at Palantir. That's right. One of them worked for Palantir. Noon climbed into a Honda Accord with Rudolph and started cold calling police chiefs to build a public safety platform for law enforcement. And anybody who pays attention, when you hear public safety platform for law enforcement, the alarm bells of dystopian should be going off in your head. That origin story is now Peregrine Technologies, a San Francisco-based AI data integration platform built from the back of a detective division in San Pablo, California. Peregrine raised $250 million in Series D funding at a $6.8 billion valuation. The round was led by existing investors, including Fifth Down Capital, Sequoia Capital, OG Venture Partners, Goldcrest Capital, XYZ Ventures, and Godfried Capital. We've actually mentioned a few of those venture companies like a year or so ago. They're still involved, still pushing the dystopian technology startups. And Peregrine's Series C round valued it at $2.5 billion just 15 months ago. So it went from $2.5 billion to 15 months later, $6.8 billion. And that's a nearly 3 times jump in single funding cycle. It's now serving more than 400 law enforcement agencies and organizations, representing roughly 125 million people across North America. And they expect to be working with close to 1,000 cities by year end. This is another one of those companies. People know Palantir, people know Flock. You're starting to get to know this. Clearview AI is a smaller one, but some people are aware of that. This is one that you're going to want to start paying attention to. It says the platform does something deceptively simple. It connects all the data a government agency already has. Police records, 911 logs, permit databases, sensor feeds, emergency management systems, license plate readers, and it makes it searchable and usable in real time. So all the other technology that we've been talking about when it comes to license plate reader, like Flock, the Palantir systems, the drone systems that they have, all the other AI biometric scanning systems, everything like that, it takes all of that data and puts it into one singular search engine for the law enforcement agency. It's a filing system with an AI secretary. It doesn't create data. It doesn't have cameras that surveil people, but it takes all of that already existing technology, all of that data, files it, and puts an AI butler there. So if you ask it, it'll find it instantly. That's what it is. Think of it as a search engine for a city's own institutional memory, with role-based access controls and a full audit trail baked in so supervisors can see who's looked at what and why. Running the Security Fusion Center for 8 of the 11 host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup is Peregrine Technologies. Rudolph, Peregrine's CTO, previously built data infrastructure for refugees at the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. That should make you feel comfortable. And worked at global health tech firm Dimaji. I think that's it. Noon ran Palantir's special operations business, including work on the intelligence platform used to track ISIS in Syria. Guess what, guys? The United States is now Syria, and the American citizen is now ISIS for these guys. That should bring you the warm and fuzzies as you go to bed at night. Peregrine doesn't use facial recognition, doesn't create or collect new data, and builds active flagging mechanisms, not passive ones when data is misused. Again, they don't need to, because this isn't about collection. This is about making it easier for people to find it instantly about us. Yep. And so that takes us to Florida, where they just signed a massive contract in Florida because Ron DeSantis's camp are connected, highly connected to this group, this Peregrine Technology. So much so, there's been a whole bunch of money going from one side to the other, and now the other side has been rewarded with a contract. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, you know, it's fascinating because, again, this is something that I've talked about before, and I've talked about it over and over and over again, but I'm going to talk about it now, is the Trump Republican selection was always the choice. You had no voice. But, you know, I still see Christians all the time, so you'd rather have Kamala? Kamala wasn't even an option. The fact that you say that tells me that you still haven't figured out how this all works. Trump was always the selection, because if the Democrats were doing half of what the Republicans are doing when it comes to installing this dystopian surveillance system, they wouldn't get anywhere, because everybody would be up in arms about it. But because it's the Republicans, they're in favor of it because they're protecting us from the immigrants and the Muslims. And so they're in favor of this. They are literally in favor of handing over freedom and shackling themselves in cages because we're owning the libs. And that's why this is happening. These parties work for the same puppet master. It's such a simple concept. But again, they've got people so entertained with this political theatrical fight that's so obviously staged, so much so it makes WWE look like Broadway, but people still fall for it. They still fall for it. This is how it works. Florida enters new era of AI policing. Politically connected firms get contracts. And guys, I cannot stress enough. You're going to see some of it now, but I cannot stress enough the amount of content that I see now compared to a year ago, 6 months ago, of the boot of the police state, the authoritarian police state, has skyrocketed to levels that I cannot believe that I am seeing. The police, ICE, the FBI, these law enforcement groups don't abide by any law. These are thugs, mercenaries going out there on a terrorist hunt against us, the American citizens, under the guise of taking care of illegals. It's insane. And I'm telling you, I'm on the front lines of looking through this stuff, and it has increased tenfold. It is sickening, the stuff that I'm seeing. I mean, you're talking about, just to be blunt, you'll see, because now the DHS has new contracts where sheriff departments and local police stations can sign up to do immigration detention, which they're not supposed to, but because they created a loophole where you can sign up for it and you can get bonuses sent to your police stations if you sign up to do it, you're having police and sheriffs pull over cars with white people, blatantly white people, demanding to see their documentation to make sure that they're not illegal. And if you don't do it, they break open the window, rip them out, handcuff them, and start kicking and beating them. I'm seeing that daily, all under the guise of immigration and protecting us from illegals. It's incredible what has happened. And I'm not saying this to be, one way or the other. I'm telling you the reality of the world that we're living in now. There's no good guy, bad guy. There's no sheriff outlaw, Western type of thing. There's no the good people and the bad people. It is thugs on both sides with American citizens caught in the middle of it. This is the reality now. It's not fun. It's disturbing. But we need to not sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sit here and try and lean one way or the other with it. I'm just going to tell you what I'm seeing out there. And if the trend that I've seen for the past year continues, it's going to get worse. It says Florida is expanding the role of artificial intelligence, and it's these systems, the Flock systems, the artificial intelligence systems, it's the Peregrine Technologies, it's the Clearview AI biometric stuff. It's all of this stuff that's making it worse. And Florida is expanding the role of artificial intelligence to help local police track down immigrants, and one well-connected technology firm is getting most of that business from the Republican-run state. Peregrine Technologies of San Francisco, whose lobbyists have close ties to Governor Ron DeSantis, has an agreement with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to provide a software platform that pulls from a vast array of surveillance and law enforcement data sources and integrates them into one easy-to-use app. Language quietly slipped into the state budget appears to steer at least $6 million in state funds towards the company's technology. The FDLE's board, that's the law enforcement organization that oversees Florida's group, Board of Immigration Enforcement also grants millions of dollars to more than 24 Florida agencies, including the Orange and Osceola County Sheriff's Office. I actually don't know how to pronounce that. Specifically to buy Peregrine software. That will allow the agencies to tap into the system that can access court reports, arrest records, police interviews, body cam footage, license plate images, and other records. There are obviously conflicts of interest at play in the legislative process, said Ben Wilcox, co-founder and research director of Integrity Florida. Are we reaching the point where all of us are under surveillance by our own government? Yes. What does that mean for being a citizen in the U.S.? You are now caged, Wilcox asked. Do we want that kind of surveillance? It says Peregrine made quick inroads into Florida's political machinery in the past 2 years. The firm hired Tallahassee lobbyist Capital City Consulting in late 2024, and then between February of 2025 and January of 2026, it donated $225,000 to a political committee controlled by Ron LaFace, one of Capital City's owners, who has played a key role in monitoring legislation on behalf of DeSantis. So what Peregrine is doing is they're hiring lobbyists to make sure that they're not directly tied. They're hiring lobbyists that are connected to the authority figures in the state of Florida, sending them a bunch of money, and the contracts come back for Peregrine to be installed in Florida. This is the same song and dance that we have continued to see, especially with the Trump administration, that is making this a daily transaction. It says the PAC distributed donations to Republican candidates and conservative political committees, including $50,000 to a DeSantis-controlled PAC, $150,000 to outgoing state president Ben Albritton, $72,600 to incoming president Jim Boyd, $57,500 to Senate Appropriations Chair Ed Hooper, and $50,000 to CFO Blaise Angolia. The other owner of Capital City Consulting, Nick Rousey, served as co-chair of inaugural celebrations for DeSantis after his election in 2018 and re-election in 2022, and a national finance co-chair for his failed presidential campaign in 2024. Peregrine's head of business development and partnerships, Matthew Melton, is married to Representative Fiona McFarland, a key member of the Florida House budget negotiating team. This is straight up pay to play. This is pay to play. We're going to get lobbyists connected directly to Ron DeSantis's camp of people, and we're going to pay them money to get contracts. This is pay to play. Exactly what we've been seeing like crazy all around the country. Peregrine secured a non-binding agreement with FDLE and the Florida Department of Corrections in April to develop a statewide information sharing platform that would use AI to help agencies in solving crimes and fighting terrorism. Again, based on legislation that was passed in Florida, anybody who is quote-unquote anti-American, it's almost identical to the NSPM 7 that went nationwide, but in Florida they passed their own. Anybody who is anti-American or anti-whatever they deemed in their broad language is deemed a domestic terrorist in Florida, which means this stuff is being used against you. 2 months later, the legislators slipped language into the state budget during the last week of negotiations to provide $6 million to hire a technology company through a competitive bidding process to develop a similar platform. The state's Immigration and Enforcement Board, made up of DeSantis, Attorney General James Uthmeyer, he's the one who's working on installing the social media kids ban and the digital online passport stuff for Florida. CFO Blaise Angola and Agricultural Commission Wilton Simpson granted more than $16 million of taxpayer money to those agencies to buy Peregrine software so they can have the boot put down on the exact same taxpayer. Yes, your taxpayer money is funding the very boot and chains being put on you. You're paying for these people to take your freedom away and your privacy away. Woohoo! Among the biggest grant recipients are the Osalada County Sheriff's Office at $1.8 million, Miami-Dade at $1.6 million, Brevard County at $1.4 million, Escambia County at $1.1 million, and Sarasota County and Lee County at $1 million each. The Orange County Sheriff's Office got $504,000 for a 2-year contract with Peregrine. This is why I am so outspoken about how people, Christians, need to ditch the I'm an American citizen and wave the flag of I'm a citizen of heaven. Because the America that you continue to hold on to is nothing but rotten bones at this point. It's dead. The problem is you're holding this corpse of what this country used to be, but you have a blindfold on, so you still think it's alive. Take the blindfold off and see that it's dead. Because when you do that, you will realize that you can finally let go of this country and put full attention on Christ Jesus and what he wants for us right now, what he has commanded us to do right now in these last days, is to recognize that this is not the same as it used to be and that time is running short. So I need to go out there with the Great Commission. I need to go and share the gospel. I need to go and witness through my testimony. I need to go and make disciples. And I need to go and sound the alarm for those other Christians who have not seen that they're still holding on to a corpse of a country, and wake them up so they can do the same. I'm very outspoken about that. I get from people all the time where you've given up. You just want to sit there and do nothing. It's like, not once have I ever advocated to do nothing. I'm simply advocating for what Christ Jesus has told us to do. Why am I going to waste my time trying to do CPR on a dead Lady Liberty when there's people around who still have not heard the gospel? That's a question I can't answer for you. That's a question that you have to answer. So with that, if words aren't enough, let's take a look in a visual perspective of what this country has become. You're going to see not only what Flock does and what this surveillance system does, but you're going to get a peek at a quote unquote law enforcement group that lied through their teeth using technology to try and pin a crime on somebody who is verifiably proven to not be the one involved with it. So you're going to get the perspective of the technology. You're going to get the perspective of the lawless corruption of quote unquote law enforcement. And you're going to get a good indication of where we are now. It's about 2 minutes and 44 seconds. I'm just going to, normally I'd stop and pause and I'm just going to let this go. I just want you to watch this. Let's just watch this together and then we'll talk about it.
We have cameras everywhere in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing.
Chrisana Elzer learned the power of Flock firsthand.
You were in town from 11:52 until 12:09 exactly. Like I said, nothing gets in or out of the town without us knowing.
When a Colorado police officer showed up at her door holding Flock snapshots of her truck.
And here's when you left at 12:09. That's when you left town.
To get?
No, to stop at Ridge Trail.
Wait a minute.
And take a package. Well, there's no shushing. I don't need to be.
I need to know where this is.
The first thing he pulled out on the body cam is that Flock picture, the clear photograph of your car.
But here's your vehicle in the neighborhood many, many times, apparently casing houses, because you just can't drive through for work or visit other businesses. You can only be casing houses.
It is her. It is 100%. It is locked in. There is zero doubt. I wouldn't have come here unless I was 100% sure. 100%. It is certain. It is on video. You're obviously welcome to go to court.
Chrisana was charged with stealing a package, but it wasn't her. The porch pirate was somebody else.
multiple times you tried to show him your video evidence. He didn't want to see it.
No, even when I called him back, he said, that's not my job.
You looked at a time of a crime. You saw my vehicle entering in the flock.
No, what I did was, I did an investigation.
You called my wife a liar. You said this is fact.
I have video evidence. I don't know what you want me to say.
The charges were dropped after Krisanna spent weeks trying to get the police chief to look at her evidence. Time-stamped video from her truck and a neighbor's doorbell camera showing she wasn't at the scene of the crime.
What does it say about where we are that you feel you have to have more cameras than the police have in order to make sure you can prove yourself innocent?
It sounds like it flipped the script to you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent.
Without a flock camera, that detective would not have been at her door. By his own admission, he pulled out the flock picture of her car. Do you want to apologize to Krisanna Elzer for what happened to her?
For the police misusing the tools? I don't think that I have to apologize for him.
He wasn't charged with a crime. He wasn't, other than being reprimanded for his attitude.
Sure. No, but I would tell you that, like, should I apologize for somebody misusing a tool? I don't think so.
Flock Safety Chief Communications Officer Josh Thomas.
Who's watching the watchers in these cases?
Well, the city council. The city owns the data, so city council would have the appropriate responsibility in that case. Our point of view has always been that it is not Flock's job to police the way police do their work.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Guys, I know you usually what you hear at this point is that's the future. No. That's not the future. That's now. It's here. It's here. You have a dystopian technology. The cop admitted it. You can't breathe in this town without us seeing it, time-stamping it. We know exactly when you got here. We know exactly when you left. We have images and videos and data that tells us all this. Then you have the police, the police who they lied. They lied, saying that that woman was the one who stole a package at a house, even though there is video of both a different woman at that house stealing the package and the woman they're accusing saying 100% we know that it was her at a completely different house across town at the same time. So you have the dystopian technology. You have law enforcement that doesn't care about actually doing any actual legal law enforcement and is making stuff up using this technology to pin crimes on people who haven't done anything wrong and then refuse to admit that they were wrong or even look at evidence that says otherwise. And then you have the creators of the technology that are refusing to take any responsibility for the very thing that they're creating. I know, I got people saying the police are allowed. This isn't about what they're allowed to do or anything. This is what I'm talking about is here, because I still, every time, and I'm just going to be honest about it, every time I talk about police on this podcast, I get at least one email or comment from somebody claiming that I'm some lefty that hates the police and stuff like that. This is nothing about what I like, what I dislike, what I hate, what I did. And people know that I'm not a lefty. I'm telling you the reality of the situation. I've given you the facts of what the modern day police does and is and who they are. It's up to you if you want to actually embrace what the reality of the situation is or continue to live in a fairy tale like it's 1950s, the American dream, where the only way that you can obtain that is because it's a dream. You have to dream it. Taking the words from George Carlin. The combination of technology, the combination of you as a citizen have no voice whatsoever, and the combination of this mercenary outlaw gang mentality that has taken over law enforcement in a broad spectrum case from federal all the way down to local is what the system is designed to do. Because they have built a society, a reality where we have sinful, lawless, corrupted humans in control that see an opportunity to grab power and abuse it, whether it's for personal or bigger agenda. And they're using it every step of the way that they can. The moment that they can sniff power, the moment that they can sniff it, they grab it and use it against fellow man, because there's no care or consideration for humans anymore. We are nothing but data sets for Silicon Valley. We are nothing but tax batteries for local police and local government. And we are nothing but peasants for the United States government. That's what I'm saying. People are holding on to this idea that we can save this country, we can put it on pause, we can do these things, do this stuff to try and fix it. And I'm telling you, it's gone. It is a corpse. That's why we need to embrace the citizenship of heaven. You know, it's one of those things where we don't pledge our allegiance to the U.S. flag, because our allegiance should be pledged to kneeling at the foot of the king. But for some reason, people want to have a foot in both, and you can't do that. You can't serve two masters. And I talked about this the last podcast that we did, where I saw a picture of a church decked out, just pride flags everywhere. And I saw a picture of a church for the 4th of July with American flags everywhere, decked out in American flags. And I said, there is no difference between those churches. They're both prideful and have placed an idol before Christ. Whether it's the alphabet agenda or whether it's patriotism, you have placed that above Christ. There is no difference between the church that plasters their church in rainbow and those who plaster their church with the stars and bars. No difference. And we're getting a good indication. I have gone over countless stories. I've lost track. Countless stories of what this technology and what these police are doing through the form of fighting against terrorism and immigration. And this is what it's leading to. American citizens. This is not for what they claim it's for. This is to be used against us. And it's not in the future. No, they're doing it now. Every time people say it's coming, this is coming, it's coming. And I'm sitting there going, it's not coming, it's here. It's just getting worse. And Hepner saw Jack Hibbs drape a U.S. flag over the pulpit. Jack Hibbs is not a pastor. He's a disgrace to those who are actually true pastors. But this is it. This is it. We're here. Here we go. Here's another one. I've already read, 20 of these now? Here's another one. Footage shows cop stalking woman he met on a TV set after surveilling her with a license plate reader. This is July 6th. This is a police officer speeds 70 miles per hour down a 2-lane highway running over a bridge in the Florida Keys. He passes a dump truck in a no passing zone, breaks the law, then immediately does it again, breaks another law, crossing over a double yellow line to pass another truck, breaks a third law. He passes a third vehicle, nearly causing a head-on collision with a white pickup truck that veers away from him into oncoming traffic. If any one of us did that, we'd be pulled over and jailed immediately. The cop keeps driving and sees the SUV he's been in pursuit of. He flicks his sirens and lights on and pulls it over. The cop, Lamar Roman, wasn't trying to pull over a suspected criminal. He was tracking and chasing a woman that he met and harassed on the set of the TV show Bad Monkey, which he had worked a security detail shift on a few weeks prior to pulling her over. After meeting with the woman, catcalling her and harassing her for her full name and Instagram details, the cop illegally looked her up in the vehicle information on David, a Florida Department of Motor Vehicles database for law enforcement. He then pulled her license plate details on a surveillance hot list, meaning he would get a notification in real time anytime she drove by an AI-powered license plate surveillance camera. And again, there's some people who say, well, that's just a rare case. No, it's not. This is a daily occurrence. Daily occurrence. Let's take a look at this one. This came from today. 5 former South Georgia officers arrested for misusing access to flock cameras. Because I hope people realize how the system is built is cops get qualified immunity. And if they ever do actually get in trouble, sued, and lose, it's the city taxpayers that pay the bill. That's why I always see these arguments from all the time. Well, if a cop does something to you that's illegal, take him to court and sue him. You'll win. Congratulations. They don't get punished. The taxpayers do. It's the American citizens that pay for the abuse of what these tech companies and what these gang law enforcement companies and stuff are doing. The system is rigged against you. The system is built to protect them. Five former South Georgia officers arrested for misusing access to flock cameras. The 5 former Albany police officers were arrested for allegedly misusing flock camera data for non-law enforcement reasons. Again, this just add this to the mountain of stuff that we've already talked about, same situations. A group of 5 South Georgia officers were arrested on Monday in connection with allegedly misusing flock cameras, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They were misusing license plate data collected from flock cameras. In the release, the GBI said, and guess what? That Peregrine Technologies is going to make it easier for them to abuse this stuff. In the release, the GBI said it began investigating the officers and reviewing the audit. They said that their investigation showed that the officers had used the flock system several times and kept the license plate data for non-law enforcement purposes. The release does not say why they kept the license plate data.
Tonight,
you have
the Chris County
Tatiana
Sheriff
Davis,
sounding
27,
the
charged with 5
alarm
counts of
again
misuse.
about gun violence.
Jay
Saturday
Jackson,
night, a man
32,
was killed,
charged with 2
another
counts of
injured
misuse.
in a shooting
Nicholas
at a
Richardson,
Cordeal
30, was
home.
charged with 11 counts of misuse. Brittany Smith, 23, was charged with 1 count of misuse. And Isaac Wittes, 24, charged with 2 counts of misuse. The GBI said all 5 were booked in the Doherty County Jail and no longer work for the police
Saturday
department.
night, Crisp County Sheriff Billy Hancock tells me this is the latest in a string of violence, often involving teenagers, and is now urging the community to come together.
Cordeal police say gunfire.
Sorry about that. I hate these autoplay videos on these websites, man. Sorry about that. Stupid websites. These local websites love to have these autoplay videos for something that has nothing to do with the story actually at hand. But this is becoming a very, very common scenario. And these are just the small select stories that we're allowed to see that are actually being taken care of. If we're seeing these things daily, common occurrences of stories and situations that don't normally make it to the public, that just tells us how bad it's happening under the cover of what we're not allowed to see. How many kidnappings have happened? How many women who have been stalked, have been kidnapped, raped, murdered? This is not just here in the United States, too. I showed a story. It's happening in Canada. How many pedophile cops are taking kids? We know that's actually very common, too, because we saw, as far as ICE agents go, it's very common that many ICE agents have been caught for pedophilia and child pornography. How many murders have happened? How many thefts have happened? All because they have access to this data. Yeah, same happening in Canada. Yeah, I've read a few stories about how this exact same technology is being abused by the Canadian police to do the exact same thing. Stalking and so on and so forth, things that we can't even think about. And there's a war beginning as well. We already know that those who are anti-data center were added to NSPF 7, which means if you're anti-data center, you are now considered a domestic terrorist according to presidential security policy. That's official. So if you're anti-data center, you are now a domestic terrorist. It's only a matter of time before you're anti-flock. Anybody who's anti-flock is going to be a domestic terrorist, because now we have this. Same thing happened in the UK when they started doing the stuff over there. It's happening here now. Young people are destroying flock safety cameras in a viral trend. Growing wave of resistance against flock safety surveillance cameras is unfolding across the country as activists and frustrated residents damage the AI-powered license plate readers over concerns about privacy and government tracking. There's videos popping up everywhere. People are taking Sawzall and chainsaws to these things, going up and ripping the cameras down, breaking them open, spray painting lenses. They're going to town on these things. Authorities say some groups have gone as far as mapping camera locations before targeting them. Reported methods have included covering lenses with paint, cutting down camera poles, and using tools to disable the equipment. In Virginia, one man was charged with 19 felonies. Oh, we'll get to that in just a second. He was charged with 19 felonies and 6 misdemeanors after prosecutors accused him of destroying 13 flock cameras over a 6-month period. That man is a hero. Because I know some people are going to say, well, that's extreme. It's not extreme. Because based upon the law of the land, which is the authority in this country, and God has outlined that in Romans 13, based upon the 4th Amendment and the 1st Amendment, this flock technology, these flock cameras are actually unconstitutional and illegal. So he has every right, God-given right, based upon both scripture and the law of the land in this country, to go and remove the flock cameras. That's not my opinion. That's not some lawyer legal analysis. That is based upon what God has given us and the authority of this country that we are to abide by, based upon Romans 13, that because these cameras are actually against the Constitution, they are unconstitutional, that he has every right to go and destroy them. But because this country does not care about the Constitution, does not care about legality, does not care about the Bible, does not care about what is right and wrong and the freedoms and the Bill of Rights, they're going to charge him with felonies. Now, keep in mind, I'm not sitting here saying that we all need to go out there and start chopping down flock cameras. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying this man is actually doing what he should do. It says, in Oregon, 9 cameras were reportedly taken down during a single string of vandalism incidents. So people all around the world are starting to revolt and destroy the surveillance cameras being installed in their towns and cities. Palantir, Flock, and other AI security companies are actively building the ultimate AI surveillance grid. Law enforcement agencies continue to warn that damaging the surveillance system carries serious legal consequences because the equipment is costly. Suspects can face felony charges, significant fines, and prison time. In Michigan, police arrested a person accused of causing $10,000 in damage to flock equipment. Well, seeing as how they paid for that equipment and it's unconstitutional, they have every right to get rid of it. But, you know, as I've been told 1,000 times by the prophecy pastors, Trump is trying to reinstall the Constitution, even though every bit of actual evidence proves that that is verifiably untrue, and he is doing everything that he can to rip it apart even faster than it was already being ripped apart before. But again, what do I know? I've just actually done the research, and I'm not blowing hot air for propaganda reasons and gaslighting my audience. What do I know? What do I know in regards to that? But it's very interesting, getting back to the fact that that dude is getting 19 felonies for allegedly destroying 13 flock cameras. It's interesting because I'm seeing charges of people who are getting caught taking down flock cameras that are going to prison for upwards of 20 years. However, pedophiles are being protected. Information exposing pedophiles is being held confidential. People who are doing insider trading and stealing from the United States Treasury are being applauded and protected for doing so. Those who stormed the Capitol are getting off scot-free. Don the Lemonhead and his group that busted into a church, some of them have gotten off scot-free for that as well. But yet, if you try and take down an unconstitutional camera, which you actually paid for in your city, you get a felony. You know what all that is? That's lawlessness. That's lawlessness. The very same thing that Scripture says is going to increase until the man of lawlessness himself is revealed. How about this one? U.S. Air Force engineer, a veteran, a United States veteran, charged with sawing down flock surveillance cameras, receives thousands of dollars from supporters across the country. You guys notice how there's a war? You have the Luciferian dystopian U.S. government taking down anybody who stands against it. The people are obviously speaking that they don't want it. Just like, I don't know if you guys saw the story, just a little side thing. There was a active U.S. military guy who went and stood on the Capitol steps this past weekend with a sign saying to impeach and remove Trump as president. And he was arrested. You guys see that one too? It says hundreds of freedom lovers are rallying behind U.S. Air Force engineer accused of chopping down over a dozen AI-integrated surveillance cameras last year. According to local channel Wavy, that's pretty cool, Virginia-based Air Force engineer and mechanic Jeffrey Sovereign is facing 13 counts of destruction of property, as well as 6 counts of both petit larceny and possession of burglary tools related to the destruction of flock license plate cameras. These automatic license plate readers, or ALPers, are starting to blanket the United States, spreading across small towns and bustling cities alike by the thousands. While ostensibly framed as crime-fighting tools, the AI-powered spy devices have raised significant privacy and social policy concerns, especially as innocent citizens get caught up in the drag net. There's also no shortage of citizens who prefer a more direct action approach. Armed with garbage bags, spray paint, and even chainsaws, a not insignificant number of privacy vigilantes have taken the fight to flock, using any means to free their neighborhoods of the ominous surveillance poles. Maria, they were complaining he was in uniform. Well, technically, based on the military lines, you can't vocally support one political party or another, or a political entity or another. You are under the president. And so if you voice any opposition to it, you can be court-martialed for it. So it's actually part of the military code. It's amazing how the military code usurps his First Amendment right. Very interesting. Let's take a look at what this is unfolding for us. You guys want to talk about communism? Well, guess what? Cuba's vast surveillance network preserves the Communist Party's grips on power. So it's so fascinating how Trump says the number one enemy of the country, of the United States, is communism. Meanwhile, he's subsidizing gas stations, getting ready to subsidize grocery stores, and he's installing the exact same surveillance network that communist Cuba the same country that they say that they're trying to save their citizens from, uses the exact same surveillance network that's being installed here in the United States under the approval of the Trump administration. Now, again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the garage. I'm not the sharpest utensil in the drawer. But I'm pretty sure I can figure this one out. Either Trump is lying or Trump's an idiot. You pick. It says, formed under the tutelage of the Soviet Union's KGB and East Germany's Stasi secret police, Cuba's intelligence services are feared on the island for their ability to repress any expression seen as a threat to the single-party system. Looks a lot like the United States now, doesn't it? Human rights groups estimate that there are more than 1,000 political prisoners in Cuba. Unprecedented shortages of gasoline, basic foodstuffs, and constant power outages have undermined Cuba's political policing, which we know we can thank the United States government for that. While the country is almost paralyzed, the police still have the capacity to quell sporadic protests that have sprung up in recent months and make arrests, said Clemente Morgado, a Havana resident. Other protesters are identified and detained soon after. Then there's this whole aspect to it as well, citizen spies. Committees for the Defense of the Revolution, known as CDRs, are an important cog in Cuba's vast surveillance system. Although not as powerful now as their heyday, their reach still expands to thousands of buildings and streets across the island. Composed of a president, minders, and political ideological organizers, hundreds of CDRs serve as a way for the government to encourage citizens to spy on each other and report dissent. We have the exact same thing happen here in the United States. It's party-based. The left spies and reports on the right, and the right spies and reports on the left. And anybody in each party tried to defend their own people. But that's what the government, the whole see something, say something campaign that the United States government put out decades ago. That's what this was. It's a way to get citizens to spy on each other, turn on each other. Yeah. They keep watch on households and individuals. They know who comes in, who goes out, how they live, what they do, and what they live on. Doesn't that sound a lot like the cop that used flock technology on the woman? Because he talked about how he knows when she comes in and where she comes in, where she goes, at what time, knows when you leave, knows when you breathe. You can't make any move in his town because he's always watching. It's kind of the same thing going on here, isn't it? Huh. Kind of fascinating when you break down all of this information without a political party leaning. It's very revealing, isn't it? See, if I had an asphyxiation to the Republican Party, I would look at this and not see a connection between what the Trump administration is doing. But because I don't have any party alignment, I can see it for exactly what it is. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to get anybody to go to one side or the other. No, I'm actually trying to get you off the field entirely and sit up in the bleachers with Jesus. Not playing for any team. Just watching the theatrics of the gameplay on the field, knowing that they're all wrapped up in Satan's game. Oh, I like that, CD Shoe. I like that. Without the narrative, reality speaks for itself. I like that. That's good. That's good. I might steal that one. I might steal that one. Absolutely not, Andrew. Absolutely not. Oh, man. That takes us over to what's going on with ICE. ICE internal watchdog is now investigating online critics. The Office of Professional Responsibility has opened more than 100 cases over what ICE officials call incidents of doxing and threats against ICE employees. Keep in mind, ICE's internal watchdog is supposed to be a watchdog for the internals of ICE, keeping an eye on what's going on with the ICE agents and the agency itself. But they have now been transformed into an investigative unit for people outside of ICE. The exact opposite of what that group is. There's no internal watchdogs anymore for ICE. There's nobody keeping an eye on what's going on the inside. Nobody. It says voting was already underway when the ICE agents arrived at a polling site in Syracuse, New York. We talked about this story the last podcast. During the state's primaries in June, the agents were there to see Pagelyn Gunya, a poll worker who says that they were concerned about an Instagram post she had supposedly made in January doxing an ICE agent. The only post she could find was the one where she made crediting the Minnesota Star Tribune for identifying Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent who shot and killed Renee Good during the federal incursion in Minneapolis this winter, and calling for his indictment. We went over that story. If you want to know the stories, the details of it, and what went down and everything, go check out the last podcast that we did. We're not going to spend time on it. We got other things to do. It says the incident, which was reported by the local news outlet Syracuse.com, was unsettling in many ways, but one part stuck out to Gunya. The warning notice said it was sent by ICE's Office of Professional Responsibility. This is some new information. That office is supposed to be for internal investigations, and now they're using it for their own internal departments on American citizens. OPR is supposed to act as an internal watchdog. It's responsible for inspecting detention facilities, investigating allegations of employee and contractor misconduct, and processing security checks for new applicants. On its site, it says it also protects against external threats by managing badge access to buildings and maintaining the agency's network security. But now, as court documents indicate, which those court documents are available for you to go and look if you don't believe, because it's a mainstream media website, it appears to be pursuing more civilians like Gunya for what they say online. In a court declaration filed in April, an ICE official said that between January 2025 and March 2026, OPR investigated 131 cases involving incidents of doxing and threats towards ICE employees nationwide. And their form of doxing includes literally posting an article from a journalistic website with a name on it. They consider that doxing, even though it's public information. They call it doxing, and they will come to you, to your house. They will track you down when you're on vacation in Finland with your daughter, as they did with the other guy at the same time that they went after that woman. We went over that story in the last podcast as well. If that's not enough, ICE pays Core Civic $1.5 billion for 2 detention facilities. You guys know how we just went over that story, how they're trying to sell a bunch of those 11 warehouses that they just bought not like a year ago, and they're trying to get rid of them. Well, now they're spending $1.5 billion on 2 detention facilities. The Department of Homeland Security has purchased 2 California detention centers for $1.5 billion. The 2,500-bed California City Detention Facility and the 2,000-bed Otay Mesa Detention Center cost the federal government $732.6 million and $739.2 million, respectively, so roughly $1.5 billion. That's roughly 50% more than the $1 billion it spent on buying 11 warehouses across the country in early 2026. DHS previously focused on purchasing vacant warehouses that could be retrofitted for detention use. In June, the agency reportedly shifted to buying existing facilities from private prison companies with which the government has already had relationships with. The purpose-built facilities in San Diego and California City were sold by Core Civic, one of the largest prison operators in the United States, according to the company release. And yes, before you ask, Trump does indeed have stock in Core Civic, and once they bought these things, he financially benefited from the purchase. The firm will continue to manage the facilities under an existing contract with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Core Civic is in discussions with ICE about additional transactions, according to the release. According to a DHS memo published in February by New Hampshire Governor Kelly Ayott's office, the agency plans to purchase 10 turnkey facilities that ICE already uses for immigration detention. The funding for the purchase came from a $45 billion allocated to ICE by the One Big Beautiful Act, or Big Beautiful Bill Act, signed last year to expand detention center capacity. Again, under the threat of immigrants, they're building these things for us. DHS also plans to offload a handful of its recently purchased warehouses, some of which weren't meeting federal standards. That's the sellback, we covered already. The government could suffer steep losses after paying significantly above market price for the properties. Speaking of which, an analyst of DHS records by Project Saltbox found that the warehouses were bought on an average of a 135% markup over assessed value. That includes a facility in Flowery Branch, Georgia that was purchased for $68 million after being valued at $400,000. ICE has approximately $293 million worth of warehouses listed for sale. At least 2 projects in Maryland and Arizona have been paused amid court challenges. My, oh my. Oh, man. See, again, this is one of those things where the enemy of my enemy is under the guise of immigration and Muslims. They are creating the very system that either people aren't paying attention to or they are supporting because they're saying that it's going to be used against my enemy. But it's actually going to be used against the enemy of my enemy. Crazy. All right. Everybody good? 7th inning stretch. Yep, Jojo. Time for some refreshments. That's right. Grab a juice box. 7th inning stretch. We are getting into it now. And we start here. The Department of Defense, because the Department of War does not actually exist, it's not recognized or approved by Congress, establishes new Defense Policy Board. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth today announced the appointment of members of the Defense Policy Board, which includes former Senator Norm Coleman as vice chair, as well as Mark L. Andreessen as a board member. These are 2 that I'm pointing out in particular because these 2 have some very interesting influence in regards to this. So this new Department of War Policy Board, which is it's interesting, it's called Department of War, but yet it's the Defense Policy Board. Really? Why not the War Policy Board, huh? Since we're going with war so much. But yeah, the Department of Defense establishes this new policy board. Norm Coleman, vice chair, Mark Andreessen as board members. Well, if you've heard Andreessen before, you'll know this because he is a venture capitalist, heavily involved in funding technology startups. He's one of the main dudes who funds Silicon Valley. And he is now sitting on the board of the Defense Policy Board. Venture capitalist Mark Andreessen has been appointed to the newly constituted U.S. Defense Policy Board. Among 15 members appointed to the board is Andreessen, a prominent technology investor and entrepreneur. His appointment comes alongside several other members drawn from policy, military, and public service backgrounds. Mark Andreessen is a prominent American entrepreneur, software developer, and venture capitalist, best known for co-creating one of the world's first widely used web browsers, Mosaic, in the early 1990s. He is also a co-founder and general partner at the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. His appointment to the U.S. Defense Policy Board is notable because he comes from the technology and venture capital world rather than the traditional military or diplomatic establishment. Keep in mind, Mark Andreessen was one of the main dudes that was involved with Trump's camp during the 2024 campaign because he was campaigning on crypto and AI and technology and all this stuff. And so Andreessen was a part of the guys that was involved with Musk and Thiel and Altman and Horowitz and all these guys. And now he's on the board. As far as Norm Coleman, I've brought this up before. In case you forgot, I thought I'd bring it up again. Former U.S. Senator Norm Coleman urges tech titans to defend Israel online, as well as publicly declares that the Jews are the master of the universe. He's vice chair of the Defense Policy Board. Keep in mind, we're getting ready to give the Pentagon to Israel. That NDAA thing that we just talked about. And this dude's the vice chair of the board. You guys see a theme? The masters of the universe are Jews, declared former U.S. Senator Norm Coleman at the Jewish News Syndicate International Policy Summit in Jerusalem last month. The former Republican senator of Minnesota gave a speech about Israel's struggle to maintain a positive image among younger Americans, particularly Generation Z, with which increasingly view Israel in hostile light. And yeah, I've played the video before. He publicly declares it. And it's interesting, he's talking about they're losing the fight online, which we know there's a massive campaign, and we've talked about it already. I'm not going to rehash all the details, but we know there's a massive campaign where Netanyahu has met with a group of American pastors. We don't necessarily know who they are, but he has met with them in order to make sure that pro-Israel messages are being passed through the church. We understand that Netanyahu has met with online social media influencers who got paid or who continue to get paid to put pro-Israel social media posts out for everybody to see. And we also know that there are people connected to the Trump administration who are taking millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars from Israel to install pro-AI or pro-Israel AI content where they are creating fake websites with fake propaganda, pro-Israel propaganda, to train AI bots to scrape information from those fake websites with the fake information to be fed to people who ask the AI chatbots about Israel. And that is all verifiably true. We've gone over all of it on this channel. And now we have this. So when it comes to deception, when it comes to online propaganda and influencing, we need to make sure that we're very aware of that, which leads us into the deep dive regarding Polymarket. Now, I've talked about Polymarket in the past. I've talked about how they're connected to influencing geopolitical situations, how it's about insider trading. I've talked about how journalists have been threatened by those who place bets on Polymarket to retract or edit information to make sure that they can win bets. And I've talked about how there are a bunch of people connected to Polymarket, high-ranking influencers connected to Polymarket. And now we're starting to get the details of who these people are. Polymarket allegedly paid controversial influencers $350,000 using personal PayPal account. Nick Shirley, remember the Minnesota fraud boy? I did a deep dive and showed you how he is nothing but a puppet in all of this. I've showed the evidence. I've showed that he's connected to the Trump administration and to public influential campaigns. He's been paid by the Trump administration to go to certain places to push certain propaganda in order to influence and to manipulate people in society, as well as it was his fake fraud investigation. That doesn't mean the fraud was fake, because we know that investigation has been going on for 10 years before Shirley stepped foot in there. But it was his investigation that brought public light in order to kick off the ICE stuff in Minnesota. We've gone over all that. That stuff's on my channel with receipts. But Nick Shirley is also paid by Polymarket. along with Riley Gaines. I just did a video about her not knowing what her 4 pillars of passion are for a Patriot Mobile advertisement. She had to ask somebody else what her passions were for that infomercial. Go check out that video that I did as well. I brought receipts. And Brian Krassenstein, I don't know if people know him, but he's very big on the social media on the left side of things. It's not just the right, it's the left too, that Polymarket's connected to. We're among more than 800 people who allegedly received money from Polymarket's chief marketing officer through a personal PayPal account. Matthew Modabber, Polymarket chief marketing officer, sent at least $350,000 to content creators between January 2025 and February 2026, the report said. Total transfers from the personal account, which is reportedly registered to an email tied to a salad shop Modabber co-founded, topped $2.5 million. So Polymarket chief marketing officer used his personal PayPal account to send out at least $2.5 million to influencers to promote Polymarket and its propaganda. And that includes Nick Shirley, Riley Gaines, and Brian Krassenstein. Imagine how much Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are getting paid to distract the Christians with their obvious propaganda, distraction propaganda. If these smaller ones, and again, so many of these pastors use these people. Brandon Holthouse was almost worshiping Nick Shirley for what he did with Minnesota, because Brandon Holthouse didn't do a lick of actual research on who Nick Shirley was, simply because Nick Shirley was speaking Brandon Holthouse's own thoughts through his mouth. So obviously he must be a good guy. About 24 creators promoted Polymarket on Twitter after taking payments from Modabber, posting at least 490 times without disclosing a paid partnership. Roughly a third framed shifts in betting odds as breaking or new news updates. One anonymous influencer said Polymarket fed them scripts and dictated post timing. They actually told us this one needs to get out now, as if we were cattle. Shane Ginsberg, a 19-year-old who runs marketing outfit Street Polar, allegedly received over $77,000 to deploy a network of 50-plus creators conducting supposedly unscripted man-on-the-street interviews. In one clip, Ginsberg casually mentions he bet $5,000 on Donald Trump, then directs the interviewee to download Polymarket. Wow. Oh, yes, Dinesh D'Souza, another one who's heavily worshipped in the Republican modern church by pastors. Modabber's payment reportedly extended into politically sensitive territory. Recipients included Amej Yaku, who now serves as deputy digital director at the Defense Department. Polymarket is paying directors at Defense Department. And Debbie D'Souza, wife of pardoned filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza. Which, again, we've talked about how Dinesh D'Souza is connected to Salem Media, who is a registered foreign, or, well, not registered, but is a foreign agent of Israeli government, Salem Media. People like Laura Trump and her podcast is on there. Dinesh D'Souza's podcast is on there. Jack Hibbs is connected to Salem Media as well, which is, again, paid by the Israeli government. Fascinating. Well, Dinesh D'Souza's wife also got paid by Polymarket as well. Polymarket separately this week, it is said this week it's terminating its contract with George Santos, who's under the CFTC investigation for allegedly betting against his own State of the Union attendance on rival Kalshi. The report lands as Polymarket prepares its return to U.S. trading. The company spent $112 million last year on a federally regulated exchange after the Trump administration dropped 2 investigations. Donald Trump Jr., of course, is a Polymarket investor and a paid advisor of Kalshi. We've talked about that as well. This is what I continue to talk about when it comes to the deception. Just because there is somebody online that is speaking your thoughts through their mouth does not mean that they get it right. I've talked about this all the time. I see pastors all the time whipping out these influencers' social media posts as some type of, did you see what happened? Like things like DC Drano and whatnot. What's her face? Jan Markell was notorious for quoting these right-wing influencers. That's like, it's nothing but propaganda. They're paid. They're paid. This is the new world that we live in now. It's influencers that are paid by this stuff. I've talked about this in the past, but I'll bring it up again as another example of it now. About the Russian propaganda Tenet media influencers. Right-wing media personality Lauren Chen left the United States in July in disgrace. Her Tenet Media YouTube channel, which positions itself as a sort of MAGA supergroup bringing together such popular commentators as Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, and Dave Rubin. Those are three massive influencers that many, many millions of people get their news from. And guess what? They were paid by the Russian government to put specific information out. Pro-Trump information. Why would they do that? Oh, that's right, because Trump is an asset of the Kremlin. Confirmed. I've shown the receipts. And it's not new. He was primed and groomed since the 80s. People like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, and Dave Rubin. Well, she got caught because she was the handler for the Russian money in the United States. And she had to leave the country. She's Canadian. She had to leave the United States. But Trump basically pardoned her and allowed her to come back into the country. Yeah. I know many YouTube pastors that utilize Tim Pool for their information gathering. Some with hundreds of thousands of followers, and they base their news off of whatever Tim Pool and Benny Johnson say, and some of these other influencers like DC Drano and Eric Doherty and stuff like that, who are paid by either Russia, the United States government, Polymarket, all these things. How paid influencers hype Polymarket's odds, unbelievable how accurate. Keep in mind, these are the ones that are also posting on TikTok and all that type of stuff as well, which is what all the people are getting their information from. Short form media, short form news is what gets the clicks now, because the attention span of people can't last longer than 2 minutes. Trust me, I know. Every time I try and do deep dive long form content, nobody cares about it, but yet whenever you see a 30-second video clip, everybody jumps on it. Crazy. When right-wing influencer Nick Shirley posted a viral video in January alleging fraud at Minnesota daycares, he showed his $1.6 million follower, or 1.6 million followers on Twitter, something else too, a gray hoodie emblazoned with the Polymarket logo. Yeah, if you guys missed it, when he was doing his whole Minnesota investigation, he was posting videos with his Polymarket sweatshirt. Polymarket had made other appearances in the 24-year-old content, like in a series of man-on-the-street interviews about the current state of America, posted in December. The first post came after Shirley began receiving money from Polymarket's chief marketing officer, Matthew Modabber. The second came after he had taken in a total of $3,100 from Modabber as well. Yeah. Modabber, who once wrote that the key to growth is a product people can't shut up about, was putting his money where his mouth is. The Polymarket executive used a personal PayPal account to send at least $350,000 to Shirley and other content creators between January of 2025 and February of 2026. That sum is almost certainly an undercount. Modabber used his personal PayPal account, which is registered to an email for a salad spot he co-founded, to send over $2.5 million to more than 800 people during a 14-month span. At least 20 of the content creators identified by Politico promoted Polymarket on social media after they began receiving money from Modabber. And this is something that I've caught up on, I've caught to as I scour the social media interwebs to see what's going on out there. And I've noticed, yes, there was a massive influx of pro Polymarket postings. During the 14-month span reflected in the payment records, they posted about Polymarket at least 490 times on the social media platform Twitter without clearly disclosing a paid partnership. Among those paid, conservative influencer Alex LoRusso, progressive political commentator Brian Krassenstein, and Riley Gaines, as well as Nick Shirley and others. If we jump down, it says, led by 28-year-old CEO Shane Copland. He's the one who created Polymarket back in college when he was just a wee little lad. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. I don't want to jump too far ahead. But led by 28-year-old CEO Shane Copland, Polymarket has primarily functioned outside the U.S. since Wall Street regulators banned it for operating without a license in 2022. But the company, which offers users the chance to bet on U.S. elections, Super Bowl, and even the Iran war, has seen its trading volume skyrocket since President Donald Trump's re-election in 2024, as prediction markets have entered the mainstream. The Trump's administration dropped a pair of investigations into the company last summer, effectively clearing the way for Polymarket to re-enter the United States market by acquiring a federally regulated exchange. So, to keep in mind, because I don't want to jump too far ahead, I don't want to reveal the secret sauce to all of this yet. It's one of those things where Polymarket is being used by the Luciferian intelligence agencies in the world to organize and manipulate full-on geopolitical events used to influence and manipulate society through propaganda and dissemination information, and is being used to fund and launder money for informants and other things in the world. And for that to properly work, the United States needed to remove the wall that was blocking Polymarket into the biggest gambling network in the world, the United States. And so Trump came in and removed the investigations, allowing Polymarket to come in and function properly for the Luciferians to use it properly. And then we also know that Donald Trump Jr. invested in the company as well. We'll get to that as well. So this is not just about gambling. This is not just about social media influencers. This is literally about total global geopolitical shifting through Polymarket. Hang with me. Told you we were going to deep dive. We're deep diving. Last week, he attacked several blue state leaders who have sought to regulate the platforms. Trump attacked states who are using their sovereignty to block a gambling website. But Trump, of course, we've gone over this information. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. And so Trump is trying to eliminate state sovereignty in order to keep Polymarket alive. It says on Twitter, the influencers trumpet claims about Polymarket's accuracy, whether it's predicting the outcome of the New York City mayoral election in 2025, hang on to that, or the exact date when a government shutdown would end, all while failing to mention the company's role in bankrolling their posts. In many of their posts, Polymarket is framed as an authoritative source, and viewers may never realize they're scrolling past sponsored content. On social media, Polymarket, which is the prediction gambling platform, has become a news source. Mainstream media websites are starting, or mainstream media groups are starting to sign deals with Polymarket. Things like Fox News and CNN are signing deals with Polymarket to produce their news on media. Remember how I said this is about Luciferian intelligence groups that are controlling this? Starting to see it now. Another element, of course, is online influencers. They're doing the same thing there. And it's all about gauging the response from people when it comes to events such as who's going to win the New York mayor race? Is the Iran war? What's going to happen with that? And all these other things. Is Trump going to become president? Very interesting. Kalshi has been known to partner with online content creators too, underscoring the importance of social media to prediction market companies' growth strategies. Last year, Kalshi hired a cryptocurrency influencer to lead its digital assets effort, and it partnered with social media influencers to boost its profile with sports fans and women's groups. Everybody was either Polymarket or Kalshi. Oh, almost like a left-right type of thing. Are you Polymarket or are you Kalshi? Are you Republican or are you Democrat? Same song and dance applied to a betting platform that's connected to Luciferian intelligence groups. Ooh. One social media influencer paid by Polymarket said, and was also granted to be anonymous because they feared retribution. Kalshi and Polymarket are literally at some point owned all the big influencers. The influencer, who has hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, said that they received thousands of dollars from Polymarket to post about the company since 2024. Says Trump's return to the White House yielded plenty of possibilities to bet on. After Trump created the slash and burn Doge initiative with an executive order in January 2025, Polymarket debuted a dashboard to track all the cuts. Wait a second. Hold on. There was a specific website when Trump came in the office that was getting passed around everywhere. It was an official website tracking all of the Doge cuts. Do you guys remember that website? So you're saying Doge, which is run by Musk, connected to the Trump administration, was actually gaining its information from Polymarket. You guys following? You guys tracking? Certainly hope you guys are with me. Influencers spread the word on Twitter, the social media platform known as Twitter before Tesla CEO and Doge leader Elon Musk bought in 2022. 2022, the same year that Polymarket was out in the world, but not quite in the United States yet. But as soon as Trump came in and started Doge, he dropped the investigations, allowing Polymarket to come in at the same time. Eric Doherty, conservative content creator and a person that a lot of pastors get their information from, who received at least $15,000 from Modabber, according to records, announced the Department of Government Efficiency dashboard released to his 1 million followers as a breaking news update on February 14th, 2025. Riley Gaines, who was paid at least $6,600, according to the records, shared the Doge news with well over 1 million followers on X, opining, "This is awesome." Conservative media personality Eliza Schaefer, who received more than $8,400, wrote exciting news in a post last February, adding that the new dashboard would be bookmarked for the next 4 years. None of these posts mentions being paid by Polymarket or Modabber, though in a comment on his post, Schaefer said that he is a long-term brand rep for Polymarket. "I'm not paid for this post directly, and they don't force me to say anything, so it's technically not an ad. However, I do clarify we work together," he wrote. Yeah, because you signed a contract that says you are required to work within these terms. So while you may not be paid directly for that post, it's probably in your contract that you signed that you need to say something about it. Hang on, guys. Hang on. It gets even better from here. When Polymarket inked a partnership in June with XAI. Okay, I'm getting deeper with it now. When Polymarket inked a partnership in June with XAI, an artificial intelligence startup co-founded by Musk, paid influencers again swooped in to hype the news. 8 of the roughly 24 influencers posted about the partnership on the same day, all within hours of one another. So Polymarket signed a partnership deal with XAI, which is Musk's Grok AI, and then paid the influencers to hype the news on the same day within the same hour of each other. Dominic McGee, a conservative content creator who received at least $3,200 from Modapper and was once ranked by an analytics firm as the third most influential user on Twitter, wrote, "X is about to change the game with this, and it's honestly a match made in heaven. Polymarket really took over. It feels like they have always been here." McGee, who goes by Dom Lucre on social media, wrote in another X post about the collaboration several days later. On McGee's website, where he touts his media influence as someone delivering unfiltered truth, he says he charges at least $2,500 to comment on a social media post and upwards of $15,000 to post a breaking or developing item. So he claims that he's delivering unfiltered truth, but if you pay him enough money, he'll say whatever you want. Modapper also sent money to two people, Debbie D'Souza and Amej Yaku. We talked about this as well. Yeah, but they do both have ties to Trump administration, but do not appear to have posted about Polymarket on social media. D'Souza's wife, of course, is the wife of conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza, who Trump pardoned in 2018 following a felony campaign finance conviction. She helped write and direct Dinesh D'Souza's 2024 documentary, Vindicating Trump, and contributes to her husband's self-titled podcast. Yaku serves as the Defense Department's deputy digital director and runs a far-right Instagram account called Snowflake Tears. Wow. D'Souza netted at least $20,000 from Modapper. Yaku received $850. Interesting. Now, let's talk about, the big news. The mayor of New York. When former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo faced off against Democratic Socialist Zoran Mandami in last year's Democratic primary to become New York City's mayor, content creators invoked Polymarket to gauge the odds of an upset. Alexander Kaufman, a climate reporter who runs Substack newsletter, received at least $1,200 from Modapper. And after Mamdani bested Cuomo to win the Democratic nomination, influencers posted about Polymarket as a kind of oracle. Almost as if the same people feeding information to Polymarket are the same people who selected Mamdani to be mayor of New York. Almost as if, I don't know, the election was rigged the whole time. Something that we talked about the moment it happened. We said this is a selection and he's going to win because he adds fuel to the fire for all of this. And Polymarket just happened to know. Arash Azizi, a historian who writes about Iran for The Atlantic and received at least $3,000 from Modapper, wrote in October of 2025, "It's fascinating how Polymarket numbers are a good guide for the direction of events. Before any polls, it saw the rise of Mamdani, for instance." He's pushing it out there saying, Polymarket isn't just a prediction website. It knows what's going to happen. Because it does. Because there's insiders feeding it the information that they are manipulating in the world. It says, as Brian Krassenstein, a progressive political commentator, put it in October, with no paid promotion disclaimer, he says it really is unbelievable how accurate Polymarket has been the last 9 months. Alex LaRusso, a conservative influencer, received at least $18,750 from Modapper over PayPal. And it just keeps on rolling. Which leads us to this. This is June 6, 2025. X names Polymarket as its official prediction market partner. X, formerly Twitter, announced on Friday that it has partnered with Polymarket, naming it the platform's official prediction market partner. Polymarket predictions will be combined with X data, Grok data, all the data it's collecting, the AI is collecting, will be put into the Polymarket. It's data collection to deliver live insights with real-time annotations of market moves from Grok and relevant X posts, Polymarket explained in a press release. The news comes nearly a year after Polymarket partnered with AI-powered search engine Perplexity to display news summaries of events. Perplexity AI. Guys, take this information with what you will. I'm just going to tell it to you. Perplexity AI signed a deal with Polymarket August 12th, 2024. Not a year ago. None other than Patrick Wood. Yes, that Patrick Wood, Technocracy News. Not a year, not even a year ago, said online on a podcast that he uses Perplexity AI for his research, and he advises everybody else to use it as well. Otherwise, you will fall behind. I've played the video. I've brought the receipts and shown it on this podcast of Patrick Wood saying just that. And it just so happens to be that Perplexity AI is connected to Polymarket. And so Mr. Technocracy News Boy is using not only AI for his research, but it's also connected to Polymarket, which is connected to the Luciferian intelligence agencies around the world to manipulate the world through actual real events and the information that you read online. I've warned about Patrick several times. I've warned about him several times. Not only that, but Polymarket has also partnered with Substack to allow writers to embed prediction data from its platform into their posts. Which leads us to, where did it come from? Where did Polymarket come from? Where did the prediction market come from? For that, we got to go back July 29th, 2003 to DARPA, the Policy Analyst Market. You guys remember how Facebook was actually DARPA's lifelog, which they scrapped and then recruited Mark Zuckerberg to open up Facebook? Same thing with Polymarket. Polymarket was created, researched, and funded by DARPA. Then it was, quote unquote, canceled. And then several years later, some teenager out of college gets brought on to run the company. And now look at what it is. It's the exact same thing. Policy Market, or Policy Analysis Market, or PAM, is a DARPA-funded research project within the FutureMAP program, which was suddenly canceled amid a media storm on July 29th, 2003. In 2000, Michael Foster, who ran and still runs the National Science Foundation Quantum Computing Research Program, convinced DARPA, the blue sky research arm of the U.S. Defense Department, to fund research on prediction markets starting in 2001. Prediction markets are speculative markets created for the purpose of aggregating information on topics of interest. This research program was eventually named FutureMAP, but the first DARPA called for proposals went out under the name Electronic Market-Based Decision Support. This call basically said, we've heard this works elsewhere. Show us it works for problems we care about. The call went out on May 2001 for proposals due in August, and by December, 2 firms had won the Small Business Independent Research Grants. The winners were Neoteric Technologies, subcontracting to Martech and professors at the University of Iowa, and Net Exchange, founded by a Caltech professor, and subcontracting professors at George Mason University, which this dude was involved with, and later to the Economist Intelligence Unit, the Net Exchange project named to be called Policy Analysis Market, or PAM. During 2002, the infamous John Poindexter became a DARPA executive, and Foster's FutureMAP program was placed within Poindexter's organization, the Information Awareness Office. In December of 2002, DARPA called for proposals for related research, at this point using the name FutureMAP. In summer of 2003, a half dozen teams at Penn State, Metron, ICT, GMU, Sparta, and BBN were awarded $100,000 each. So we got an idea of what this comes from. Polymarket comes from DARPA, and it comes from the Information Awareness Office. Robin Hanson was involved with this. Who is Robin Hanson? Robin Hanson is Associate Professor of Economics at George Mason University and was a research associate at the Future of Humanity Institute of Oxford University until 2024. He has 9 years' experience as a research programmer at Lockheed and NASA. Hanson has pioneered prediction markets, also known as information markets and idea futures, since 1988. He was also a part of DARPA's Policy Analysis Market from 2001 to 2003, and IARPA, which is the Information Intelligence research side of DARPA. We've talked about IARPA. It was a long time ago, but we talked about it. And he was connected to IARPA as well, which was he was involved with advancing prediction markets through the Dagger and SciCast projects from 2010 to 2015, which means he was still involved with getting prediction markets working just a few years before Polymarket came onto the scene. So what happened? Well, if we go back to July 29th, 2003, we have this. Pentagon kills Terror Futures Market. Ooh. Controversial plan set up by a futures market, prediction market, to use market forces to help predict political upheaval in the Middle East has been scrapped, as they say. The Pentagon Tuesday agreed to abandon the plan, the Senate Armed Service Committee chairman said, after Senate Democrats Monday blasted the plan as nothing more than state-sponsored gambling on terrorism. It was being used to produce political upheaval in Middle East countries, and people could bet on it. This is PAM, what DARPA and the IAO were working on. The conventional wisdom holds that financial markets combine the collective wisdom of the millions of investors who participate in them. Designers of the program were hoping to use that market force to help predict political upheaval in volatile places like the Middle East. The project was modeled on futures exchanges like Iowa Electronic Markets, a popular West-based market that lets political junkies place bets with real money on the outcome of political elections. Didn't we just read some? Oh, that's right. Polymarket and Kalshi. Guys, it was never scrapped. It was, we did our research, it hit the mainstream, we got the response information that we wanted, we canceled it, and then we just brought it back at a later date with a different name under some stupid teenager out of college. They did the same thing with Facebook. They're doing the same thing with this. The Policy Analyst Market, which has set to begin signing up investors on Friday, was designed to let Middle East experts place bets on political and economic events in the Middle East, according to Charles Polk, president of Net Exchange, a small San Diego, California company hired by the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or DARPA, to set up the project. Possible contracts could include questions like the overthrow of the King of Jordan, or the assassination of key figures like Yasser Arafat, These contracts would deal with events in each country related to 5 major categories: military preparedness, civil stability, economic health, U.S. military involvement, and U.S. economic investment. The market also designed to follow trading derivatives and complex hedging strategies, linking, say, renewed economic growth in Israel to the prospects of approval of a Palestinian statehood. You cannot make this up. By placing thousands of individual bets, the thinking went market participants would shape forecasts about future events. The value of the contracts would fluctuate based on market participants' beliefs about the likelihood of specific events taking place, moving higher if they appeared likely and lower if unlikely. Contracts would expire quarterly and extend a year and a half into the future. Each contract would be fully valued at $1. The payoff, an accurate prediction. This is one of those things where we're piecing this together. We're showing what's going on. We're looking at this information and we're seeing how it all plays together. But yet this is information that most people would just write off as, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. How about directly from the CIA website from 2006? It says using prediction markets to enhance U.S. intelligence capabilities, specifically mentioning DARPA and the Future Markets Applied to Prediction FutureMAP program. Yeah, the CIA blatantly puts it out there that they use prediction markets to enhance U.S. intelligence capabilities. Conspiracy theory, right? There's your young, impressionable college kid, just like Mark Zuckerberg was, inside the deal that made Polymarket's founder one of the youngest billionaires on Earth. 1 year ago, check this out, 1 year ago, the FBI raided Polymarket founder Shane Copland's apartment. Now the college dropout is a billionaire at the age of 27. Prediction markets like Polymarket let thousands of ordinary people bet on future events, the unemployment rate, say, or when Bitcoin will hit an all-time high. In aggregate, prediction markets bets have proven to be something of a crystal ball, with the wisdom of the crowd often proving itself more present than expert opinion. Or is there insiders manipulating these things? For instance, Polymarket punters predicted that Trump would prevail in the 2024 presidential election, when many national pundits were sure that Kamala Harris would win, which we know that was a selection. And so if they know it's a selection, wouldn't they also influence the Polymarket system for it as well? Going back to 2024, Polymarket raises $70 million from Peter Thiel's Founders Fund. Yes, Peter Thiel, the same dude connected to Palantir, which was funded and created by the CIA. And so Peter Thiel, connected to the Luciferian intelligence groups, paid to keep Polymarket going. Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market, announced today that it has raised $70 million in new capital across 2 unannounced rounds. $45 million Series B led by Founders Fund, Peter Thiel, and existing investors, One Confirmation and Parify, with participation from Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin, Dragonfly, and Eventbrite's co-founder Kevin Hartz, as well as $25 million Series A led by General Catalyst, with participation from Airbnb's Joe Gebbia, Polychain, and other leading investors. And then we know Polymarket also secured investments from Trump Jr. backed 1789 Capital. And 1789 Capital and Donald Trump Jr. Invested in it, and Donald Trump Jr. joined the advisory board. And then we also know that 1789 Capital was founded in 2022. There's 2022 again. A lot happened in 2022 involved with this, didn't it? By Omid Malik and Chris Baskirk. And then we get Coinbase. Just keeps getting better, man. Coinbase CEO mentioned something about insider trading on prediction markets. Oh, let's see what he had to say. Mr. Brian Armstrong. If you're trying to figure out what's actually going to happen in the world, do you want people with inside information betting on it? Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong thinks you do. But he's not exactly thrilled that that message went viral. A Twitter user recently posted a clip of Armstrong discussing prediction markets and claimed that insider trading is 100% necessary for prediction market platforms. They even attributed a quote to him: "If you want the truth about the world, insiders are the only path." Insiders are the only path. Who are the insiders? The puppeteers? But I thought that was a conspiracy theory. If you're building a prediction market as an asset class where people trade for profit, you absolutely need to prevent insider trading to maintain market integrity. But if you're optimizing prediction markets as a tool for discovering what's actually going to happen, which is what Polymarket is, essentially treating them as a news source, then you think 100% want insider trading because that's where the genuine signal comes from. Imagine a prediction market asking whether the Suez Canal will be safe to open in July. A Navy admiral who knows exactly where the Houthis are positioned has real information. Armstrong says you kind of want that person betting on that market because they represent the actual source of the truth. They're telling you, guys. They're telling you. This is quite a web, isn't it? Polymarket, which a lot of people think it's just gambling on predictions of what's going to happen in the world. But ultimately, it goes so much deeper. So much deeper. Because even retired Navy and Army intelligence officers wrote about prediction markets, saying that prediction markets are used not only to predict market data, but is also used in human intelligence gathering, where if there's something that's going to be happening in the world and the prediction market is showing that it's happening, they can send actual human assets to that location, pay them through betting on the prediction markets, and they can manipulate the world and the prediction markets themselves by having human assets in there with the insider information. It also helps with intercepting communications and intelligence from other countries and people in order to manipulate these markets as well as the global procedure. And they talk about how open source intelligence, which is people who scour whatever's available online that they can gather in the open source in order to report the details of what's happening in the world, they can also be manipulated by prediction markets, all being manufactured by intelligence groups behind them. And it's all connected to this. DARPA briefly establishes the Information Awareness Office, the IAO, involving mass surveillance. Remember all the flock stuff we were talking about? You thought that that was separate from the Polymarket conversation. Oh no, it's very much connected by the same group. In January of 2002, same time that they were doing the Polymarket stuff, the United States Defense Research Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, established the Information Awareness Office to apply surveillance and information technology to track and monitor terrorists and other asymmetric threats to U.S. national security by achieving what they call total information awareness, TIA. The IAO office attempted to achieve total information awareness by creating, tell me if any of this sounds familiar, by creating enormous computer databases to gather and store the personal information of everyone in the United States. including personal emails, social networks, credit card records, phone calls, medical records, and numerous other sources without any requirement for a search warrant. This information was then analyzed to look for suspicious activities, connections between individuals, and threats. Additionally, the program included funding for biometric surveillance. This was back in 2002. Biometric surveillance technology that could identify and track individuals using surveillance cameras and other methods. 1 year after the Information Awareness Office was created, the IAO was defunded by Congress, following public criticism that this technology could lead to a mass surveillance system. However, local IAO projects continued to be funded and merely run under different names. Guess what one of those are? Palantir. CIA created after the supposed closing of the Information Awareness Office that was looking to build a giant surveillance network and information data hub. It's the exact same thing that happened with Pam to Polymarket, LifeLog to Facebook, international or the IAO to Palantir. It never went away. It's still alive. And it's all connected. Polymarket, Flock, Palantir, all of it. You guys remember this? This was May of 2025. Trump taps Palantir to create master database on every American. The Trump administration is collecting data on all Americans and are enlisting the data analysis company Palantir to do it. The administration efforts to compile data began under Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. Now, when Doge was first announced, I believe we were the ones that were talking about how it was going to be used to build a data center. And look at what's going on. Doge was connected to Palantir and the collection of all people's data, as well as Doge was connected to Polymarket. All one single system. The administration's effort to compile data began under Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency initiative, which sought Americans' personal data from multiple agencies, including the IRS, Social Security Administration, Selective Service, Medicare, and many others. In some cases, court orders hindered those efforts, but not all of them. They're all connected. Every single one. Connected. Yeah, Kim, you point out the pyramid. You'll notice that it's the all-seeing eye pyramid, and it's staring down at the entire world. You get it? It's the Luciferians watching the world. But that's just a conspiracy theory. It's so fascinating. You look at all these little individual things, and everything from Palantir to Doge to AI to Polymarket to Nick Shirley to DARPA to the CIA, all connected. All connected. It's the revitalization of the Information Awareness Office. Crazy. It's not conspiracy, it's reality. And if you want to see the truth of the matter, you have to ditch the left-right paradigm. If you still think Trump is here to fix things, that he's not a part of it all, you are dead wrong. Dead wrong. You are ignoring the facts of reality so hard, it's unbelievable. If you want to know what's really going on, you have to ditch left-right paradigm blindfold that keeps you from seeing the corpse that is the United States that you cling to. It's time to ditch your country's flag and wave the flag of citizenship of heaven. And it's not time to endorse a political party or a political politician, but it's time to kneel at the feet of the King. And with that, we share the King's gospel, the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is as simple as ABC. A is you admit that you're a sinner. The act of repentance, metanoia, turning from self to Christ. It's through repentance, it's through this admittance that you realize that you need Jesus Christ to save you. And so it's through repentance that allows true belief in Jesus Christ as your Savior. You repent, and through it you believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God, that he came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only, there is no other. And he lived the perfect, sinless life. The only one to do so, which means he was the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world upon his shoulders to the cross, to take our place, to take our punishment, where he was crucified and he died. But because there's power in the blood of Jesus Christ, he defeated death and rose again on the third day. For all who believe in him shall not perish, but live forever in his presence and in his glory. The glory is his. He did it. And see, as we call upon the Lord, it's the 2 steps to salvation of repentance and belief, and the response afterwards, the acknowledgement, the calling to your Lord. It's through a supernatural gift of prayer that we gain access to as we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit, where we can go to our Father at any moment of any day and speak to him, and we say, God, thank you. Thank you, God, for sending your Son, Jesus Christ, to be the ultimate perfect sacrifice so that I may live. I don't deserve it. I deserve death. But because you love me so much, you give me life through your Son, Jesus. God, thank you for giving us eyes to see the deception of what is going on in this world, to be able to recognize how these things are connected and being ruled over by Satan. This is his world. And thank you for giving us the ability to recognize that you are shaking loose anything possible for those who are truly paying attention, for your believers, your church, who are truly paying attention, to let go of this world, Satan's world, and to focus on things above. God, please guide us according to this. Give us the ability to recognize more of this deception as we come across it. And give us the wisdom and the words to warn others of this as we share the gospel of your Son, Jesus Christ. And we say, Lord Jesus, please come soon. Maranatha. In your holy name that we pray. Amen. Amen. Crazy times, crazy world. Let's see here. Looks like we got one here. Patrick, as far as questions. I can always count on Patrick. I remember last year you talked about Trump giving an executive order to provide police with federal immunity. Is it still a thing, or has it escalated further since then? Yeah, there's which one was that? I can't remember. There's so many of them. I know the one you're talking about. I can't remember the exact name of it. I'll see if I can try and find it this week. I know the one you're talking about, though. Yeah, it's about more and more protection for law enforcement, police units, and those and federal law enforcement as well, giving them immunity. Still active, still around. I don't know if it's increased. I haven't necessarily seen anything, but that just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean that they haven't increased it further. But I don't think they need to. They're doing a very good job of protecting all these law enforcement groups and agencies, and local and federal, with everything that they do that's unconstitutional and illegal and everything like that. So I haven't necessarily seen anything that says it's increased, but it's still very much active. So looks like that's all the questions for tonight, guys. Thank you for joining me. I know it was a long one. I know it was a lot of information, but again, this is what happens when we take an episode off. We got to play catch up on this stuff. So thanks for joining me, guys. Let's see. Usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, I'd certainly appreciate it. So we can get that gospel out to the people. Also, feel free to follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be backup live streaming over on Rumble. Yeah. And then Telegram posts updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format. I throw up on there as well. So follow along on there if you want to. If not, no worries. Just make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's the best place to stay up to date. And you'll find the latest podcast and live streams. You'll find the announcement page, the free book to download, and all that funky jazz you can find there as well. I don't know. So yeah, and then last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel, again, this channel is entirely operated and run by you guys with your donations and your love offerings. So if you guys want to help me keep this going and all that stuff, those links are below. CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. Again, we don't sell anything. We don't do monetization. We don't do memberships, subscriptions, paywalls. We don't do any of that stuff. Again, you guys make this happen with your generous hearts. So thank you for your support. And if you are inclined to give, those links are below. So thank you. That's it, guys. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate y'all. And yeah, have a good week. I don't want to keep you guys. It's already late. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out. Maranatha. I'm just trying to find the thing. There it is.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.